Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. Well, Real Salt Lake did it. They get the win. They shut out Juarez 3-0, three different goal scorers. Salons again. Another teenager, Lineker Rodriguez, young guy, gets the goal. They get the back-to-back shutouts. They're playing great. They might actually advance in the League's Cup. We got to see what happens now. They got some help last night as Cincinnati gave up 2 goals in the last 15 minutes and lost. RSL needed that. Now they're in front of Cincinnati. And Charlotte gave up a goal 90+1 and lost. And now RSL's leapt over them as well. So RSL's sitting in second place for the moment. They need to finish in the top 4. There's 4 teams that can jump them, and they need 2 of them to lose. We'll see what happens. Dallas is playing at Toluca tonight. They're in Mexico. And usually when U.S. teams go south of the border, they lose. LAFC's at home against Querétaro. Yeah, I can't say that name. And LAFC will probably win. So they'll probably get one of the 2 they need tonight, and then it'll come down to the last couple games, and we'll see how that plays out. But they're in it. And I think more importantly, I think they're playing better and feeling better about themselves as they go back into MLS play Saturday against Minnesota. For more on the 3-0 win, here's Pablo Mastroeni after the game.
Pablo, David James from KSL Sports. You often say that the final score is one thing and the performance is another, and 3-0 looks really good, but it looked like you were shaking your head in frustration right before the half. So after 90 minutes, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I thought the first half was a bit choppy, and it just felt like it was – because of how comfortable the guys are on the ball, we were trying to make the killer pass every time. And I'll never say not to do that. I'll say, though, then we can't complain about defending for long stretches, right? So it's both. And in this setup against the back 4, our wing backs are the critical players, right? Because, again, if they're playing against a back four and you pull your wing backs deeper, their outside back has to come to you. Once we face forward with our wing backs, we should have actions that can essentially get us up the field or get us a big switch, and then we're walking the ball up. And I thought too many times in the first half we played we didn't play the correct pass to play simple. And I think in the second half we did a better job of that. So again, having said that, the guys defended well, yeah, so I think that's really the takeaway is and again, the positive of that is that the guys feel confident to find those passes. And if they do work, we're going to the house. But after the third one, there should be a warning sign going off or alarm going, saying, let's get control of this game again. And let's play this game on our terms versus continuing to jam balls down the middle and losing it. But like I said, the second half was much different, and goals change games. The Surge goal, world-class finish, great ball from Noel. And then Lineker's goal is great wing progression, Dre getting the ball from Noel, and then Lenny getting to the spot and finishing. So there's a lot of positives to take away from this game. And then the biggest positive for me is the way we defended with the lead and defended the box really well, defended corners and set pieces really well, and that's been something that's been our Achilles heel. So the mentality of this group defensively, there's been a click, a change, and I think from these last 2 games, is the biggest takeaway for me.
I think you started 19 different guys across the 3 Leagues Cup games. You only give up 1 goal. You take 7 points out of 9, whether it's Arias or Booth or Pablo Ruiz. Are there some guys who maybe change the way you look at them and perceive them here as you go back in MLS play?
Yeah, I think every game, especially in this tournament, you're playing against high-level competition, is an opportunity to evaluate individual performances within the collective. I think all 3 of those players, and you can throw Lineker in there as well, have done really well to bring confidence to themselves, but also bring confidence to their teammates. And I think that is a huge part. We just talked about it after the game, and they said we're just different when we're not focusing on one aspect of our game and we're playing free and we're playing for each other. And so we got to do more of that. And I think that's what the vibe that these guys coming into the group that don't have a lot of experience with the team, I think they feel the same way. Really proud of the way, Juan and Pablo and Lineker and Booth And, these guys have really performed in really high pressure moments. And so now our depth from a performance standpoint has improved based upon these last 3 games.
So now there's 4 games that will determine whether you advance or not. You need 2 of them to break your way. Are you someone who's going to watch 4 games over the next 2 nights, or do you just tell Trey to call you and tell you what happened?
I probably have Trey call me. To be honest, we got Minnesota at the weekend, and so all attention goes to Minnesota and prep for that game. Again, I think it's like any other game. We talk about results all the time. Is you got to do your job and control what you can, and the rest of it you leave to fate and chance and hopefully a little bit of luck, and we'll find ourselves through to the next phase.
Hey, Coach. Matt Casey with KSL Sports. You spoke in the lead up to this game about wanting to see an elite rest defense, or you identified it as something that would be critical against this team. How did you evaluate your team in that, besides, the clean sheet?
Yeah, I think for the most part we did a good job. We definitely stressed ourselves in that phase, given that we gave a lot of balls away centrally, in particular the first half. So there's a lot of great recovery actions. Didn't give up too much. There's some shots from outside, but again, I think we that was almost we did that to ourselves more so than our opponent breaking us down defensively. I thought when we were in a block, we actually did a really good job understanding the moments to get after the ball, understanding when to be in a block. So there's a lot of growth in that, and I think the fact that we didn't concede on a transition moment was really important for this group against a team that has done that in 2 consecutive games prior to.
And you've talked about needing to see the alarm bells going before players get into a very dangerous position. When you saw Ruiz take that yellow card in the first half, was that kind of what you've been talking about?
Yeah, absolutely right. I think it was again, I think it was one of those plays where it was kind of self-inflicted. But again, it's how do you stop the play? Because it's not just a tactical foul for that moment. It breaks their momentum as well. So if you're going to take a yellow card, it's now momentum is neutral, right? Versus them breaking down and scoring a goal. Now momentum is completely shifted. So those plays do more than just a yellow card. Yelling at the referee doesn't do anything for anybody. But plays like that are really important. And then having to play the rest of the game on a yellow card and still contribute meaningfully, I think is a huge win for Pablo Ruiz.
And I'm sure some of those substitutions late were with Minnesota in mind. But at halftime, you bring on Solans and Noel, and 8 minutes later, they combine on a goal. What were you looking to change with that substitution at half?
Yeah, both those subs were made before the game. I had a conversation with the 4 players. And again, it's Morgan hadn't played in a while and then played huge minutes in the last 2 games. We want to keep everyone sharp, but also managing the minutes. And I felt like with the performances that I've seen in the previous 2 games, that the level was going to maintain or improve based upon those changes. So, I think that's what confidence and belief does for us as coaches. We feel really comfortable. Pablo hasn't played a lot of games this year, but he started against Tigres, came on against Atalanta, and today played 90 minutes. And so this is, I think, the evolution of something important as we go to the second phase of the season.
There's RSL head coach Pablo Mastroeni after the 3-0 win. They're back at it Saturday night. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Mitch Harper talking Cougar football. What a weekend that was, huh? We'll talk with Mitch next. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, it was a big topic this weekend. I think it's still a big topic today, and that's why we're having Mitch Harper on here. But don't you feel a little bit like this BYU topic is always going to be a topic? There's always going to be a coach who wants more money. There's always going to be a coach who needs more money, because what we were just talking about in the last segment, the pressure to get it and other sports fighting for it.
Yeah, but I think it runs deeper than that.
And it does run deeper than that, because there's a layer of how much personal trust or animosity is there. Disconnect.
Did you ever talk about years after the fact a manager who kicked your chair?
Maybe. He didn't kick my chair. He pulled his leg back to kick my chair, and then he thought better of it. And he wasn't going to kick my chair. He was going to kick me.
Oh, yeah, see?
Yeah.
And it'll always be that Brian was willing to let Kalani go. and that'll always be out there.
That won't be forgotten.
Now, you could argue it wasn't just that, man. He wanted him to go. It depends on how far you want to take it.
Mm-hmm. DJ, PK, and we're joined now by Mitch Harper, BYU insider for KSL Sports. Mitch, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Happy to be on.
Mitch, did you think you were just going to have a nice weekend, the summer, one of the last ones, and all of a sudden, wow, look at that.
Crazy. And I just think that the whole, situation was just bizarre. And, just hearing PK's comments coming in, I mean, the letting Kalani go to Penn State, and you point back to that as maybe a starting point potentially in all of this. But to think that BYU goes to a message board to issue a comment, they've had so many things that they could dispel rumors. I mean, Cougar Board has been a hotbed for rumors for many years, for a quarter century. I mean, a couple months ago, they could have said when Parker Kingston's showing up to the indoor practice facility, hey, he's not a member of the university. Get ready for the football season. Go Cougars. They didn't do that. It was only this. And this was the first time that they have an AD that maybe doesn't have a, more than, universal, approval rate from the fans. And I think that's new territory that this athletic department is not used to for the most part. So it was surreal. And now BYU moves forward.
Yeah. We discussed that obviously on the show, that I had never seen anything like that. And I don't know the level of truth. I got people telling me, well, the guy was ordered to do it and all that stuff. But it was unprecedented and kind of crazy. But it's an evolving world of the online internet rumors and all that stuff that we now have to deal with. I mean, you're right. It's been going on. I've told the story when Croton was fired. Somebody apparently went on there and said I wasn't at the press conference because I was suspended when I was bedside after my father was fighting for his life following a major heart attack. And they came up with I was suspended. And I mean, I'm a nobody compared to this. But if they would go to that level, then obviously they would reach to this level. As far as the funding and all that, can this thing be smoothed out? Because I wonder if it can, because BYU now, they've increased their amounts of money that they've put into the program, but at the same time, it's not a one-shot deal. It has to be repeated freaking every year, and I just wonder if they're in for that.
I believe that they are, because and I think they are from the standpoint of they've got to have that direct line of communication to the brethren and the church. I think that's critical in all of this, because sometimes you think back to those years when we'd have roundtables with Tom Holmoe, and he'd note that, we don't talk to Salt Lake often. Well, I think in this area, you got to talk to them often, all the time. And I know that's probably on the priority scale, it's probably low. I mean, they're looking at the world and their members and everything else, but it's a big business, and they've got different for-profit divisions within the church. And, BYU is not a not-for-profit, but like, it's big business, and there's a lot of money and exposure to be had with BYU football in particular. And you just think about how well BYU has performed with this coaching staff. Coaches want to play for Kalani Sitake, how they've been knocking on the door of the playoff. You go throw $40 million at a roster. Yeah, that sounds insane to think BYU doing that once upon a time, having a head coach like Lavelle who would just say every year, let's just do a contract and basically coach for peanuts. But if you do that, I mean, I think this coaching staff's equipped to get you to a playoff, and probably the return on investment is just tenfold and then some. I mean, so the money back. And I just think also too, BYU has made it clear, they want to play at the highest levels of college sports. And you can't help but think that there's going to be a shift at some point. I think this Big 12 situation is great for BYU. They love the Big 12. But I think we'd all be naive to think that this is just going to stay status quo forever. You got to always be investing at the highest level, because you never know when this thing's going to shift, and you want to be having a seat at that table, whatever that looks like, the final form of college football. And so I just think it's the direct line to Salt Lake, I think, is important more than ever when it comes to BYU's athletic department.
So do you think the current discussion about resources to BYU, not getting what they need, not getting what was promised last December, whether that's not getting the total amount or not getting it in a timely fashion, whether it was specific things that were promised in December, or the more general attitude, wherever this goes in the future, we're going to keep up. But this is what we're going to do right now. Do you think that's going to get worked out, or is this going to continue to bubble? Is it going to be kept at a simmer? Best case scenario.
I would say that it has to be figured out, because we've seen, it was knocking on the door where Kalani's got 1 foot out. I mean, probably even more than 1 foot out. It was almost a done deal. And I really think the timing of that Big 12 championship game was probably a big reason why it all worked out, because had there been no game that week and having practices and public facing scrutiny, maybe this doesn't, get that love bomb as Kalani referenced. He could have been gone already. So it was so close to the brink, and BYU, your coaching pool is so small to begin with. When you've got a coach that's the right guy and navigated some really, not ideal situations where he's handed an offensive coordinator to begin, and really, I mean, the scrutiny of win or go home, basically, with 2019 and the extensions. I think you got to do right by him. I think he's done a really good job. He's universally beloved coaching in the Big 12 and college football. This is the right guy for BYU football, and he wants to be at BYU. So I think they've got to figure it out, because if not, it's clearly shown that he'll engage in these conversations. And I think it's a bit interesting. And Kalani's talked about this in interviews, and he talked about it quite a bit at the Big 12 media days, is that he saw, all these programs, how they operate, and had a deep dive in these coaching carousel of how they do things. And there's a big gap. And he got the front row seat to how these high level programs are doing it. And I think he believes that if BYU does it to that scale, or maybe just a tick lower, they can, maybe do some big things and win at even higher level than they have the past couple of years.
How about the idea that basketball is receiving more money? That's got to stick in his craw.
Yeah, I mean, basketball, that roster was expensive last year, whatever the official number was. You just kind of go through it. I mean, on the low end, an AJ DeBonsa, about $4 or $5 million, depending on what number you believe, and 3.5 was thrown around for Rob Wright. Richie Saunders was getting north of $1 million. I mean, right there, you're talking, close to 10. Yeah. And when BYU football and BYU basketball joined the Big 12 initially, it was, probably a little north of $1 million, if that. I mean, it wasn't much back then. So basketball moved at a lightning speed, because you needed to do that to get a decorated coach that had an NBA resume, and I think it was worth it. I mean, keep throwing money at basketball. It's a big program, but you got to do it at football too, at the highest scale, and especially too when you're in a conference where you've got a program in Texas Tech who is not slowing down, and they're not just turning to the portal now. They're going to the high school ranks and getting recruits in this 2027 class. They're going to have probably a top 5 class, or on the low end, top 10. You got to keep up with that. They're not slowing down at Texas Tech. Gambling scandals and whatnot, who cares? They're not slowing down. That machine's continuing to go, and you got to keep up with that. So, and at some point, you want to break through and win a Big 12 championship. We'll do what the flag bearer of the conference is doing right now, and invest at the highest level. And I think, again, you got a coaching staff that's proven that they can win. And I think that's something too. It's not some flash in the pan. Kalani's one with a lot of different, players and different staffs and different schedule dynamics. And they've done a pretty good job. Now they got to break through and go get a championship. But again, you got to have the roster necessary to get there. That's why I don't look at this year's team in playoff or bust category. Like, if it's not I feel pretty confident it's not a $40 million roster. I don't think we'd be having these conversations and these, where Kalani's a little salty at Big 12 Media Day and in some of his interviews. You wouldn't be seeing some of this if that was a $40 million roster, which is believed to be the high end in the sport with the Texas Techs and the Ohio States and Oregons. That's why I don't put BYU in that playoff or bust territory. If they can get to Arlington, that'd be great, but you wonder if that's their ceiling, because unless they really throw even more money at this football roster.
So there are some assumptions made about wanting to keep Kalani, and I totally get the argument. I mean, it's like 4 years in, he's 27 and 25, and the pandemic hits, and it's like he had to win, right? And he needed to win big, and he found out a way with all the distractions were thrown at him in the pandemic and scheduling on the fly, have a double-digit win season, and they did. and then you send the quarterback off to the NFL, figure it out, have another double-digit win season, and he did. Go into the Big 12, it's a step up, figure out a way to have a double-digit season 2 years ago, and he did. And then you suddenly use your senior quarterback and you got to plug in a freshman, figure out a way to have a double-digit win season, and he did again. That's a lot of success. There are a lot of people want to keep him, but we are seeing a lot of coaches who've been very successful changing at BYU. It's not football, it's not men's basketball, but they've put a lot of emphasis into women's soccer, women's volley, women's basketball. They've had success in all three of those programs, and we're seeing changes in all three of those programs. If you want to go full Machiavelli here and say, I want to change in football, I can't fire the guy who's had these 4 10-win seasons, but if he doesn't get the resources and he takes off for Penn State, and there'll be another Penn State open, whether it's USC or Oklahoma or Texas or somebody else, then I can go out and get Jay Hill if that's who I really want. Now, maybe that's too Machiavellian and that's not realistic, and yet I see a little twitch. That might have occurred to you at some point, Mitch. You've thought about this.
Machiavellian, Mitch, twice.
Yes. And look, I mean, I think this is a jarring reality that BYU's in, where they've got 2 head coaches that, are making a lot of money, that are in the upper tier of salaries in college football and college basketball. Could you save some money where you're in an era where you're looking to pay back the athletes and rev share? Could you get a coach that you believe's got a higher ceiling and pay him at a cheaper cost? Maybe that sounds like the route for some, but I think for BYU, when you find the guy that Kalani, we see it. I mean, he just lives and breathes BYU football. I mean, if there's so many situations, it would have totally made sense to me to go to Penn State. I mean, I just think that would have been the move for him. But I think he really believes that he can win at the highest level at BYU, and he wants to become the Polynesian Lavelle. I mean, I think he really wants to do that, and he's got that ability to do that. I think in some respects, what Kalani has done rivals Lavelle in some aspects, considering the strength of schedule, the conference, the changing landscape of the rules every year, and he's adapting. And through it all, he's finding this way where even a couple days ago, we see a guy like Ephraim Asiata going to Instagram and basically saying, I love this coach. And it's like, I've seen many BYU players in the past get booted or not be part of a team, and they have an axe to grind with BYU, and maybe he does. But when the football program, Kalani just finds this way, whether they transfer or they're gone, they always have positive things to say about Kalani. And in a program and a religion that is very conscious about its image, I think it's good to have a coach that, has positive feedback from everyone that kind of comes in contact with him. I think that matters a lot to BYU. Then on top of all the on-field success. So I think that, Kalani, it's an interesting time for BYU and college athletics in general. And look, they've come a long ways from where they were. I mean, 10 years ago, they didn't even have caffeine on campus, and now they're going to have a Monster logo on the field. I mean, things have evolved, and BYU has they've done a lot over time, but there's more to be done because, again, these coaches, this is their livelihood, this is their business. They want to go win at the highest levels. They're not just content, with a 10-win, 11-win season and an appearance in Arlington where you get hammered. They want to go win at the highest levels, and that entails a playoff and maybe chasing a national championship. And I think Kalani, by turning down Penn State and staying at BYU, he clearly believes he can do it, but they got to have more to get that done.
And you think that when you look at the roster, that according to you, I think you had him 11-1, so you're anticipating a Rockefellian season.
I am, and I think that any of these off the field distractions, I don't think they're distracting the players at all. I don't get that sense around practice yesterday. I mean, honestly, I don't think many of them even knew some of the commentary that was going on at Cougar Board. But I think that, this team is pretty good. They're talented. And you look at, just some of the skill at some of the positions like cornerback and defensive line. Just those have all, and I point to those positions as areas where BYU's never had elite talent. And you look at the cornerback position, and they might have a guy that, could be a top 75 pick in Evan Johnson, maybe even more. And so those are things. And then you got the depth behind them where, athleticism, the size, the kind of the measurables, they look the part. And will that be enough to, close the gap with Texas Tech or whoever emerges in the Big 12? We'll see. I mean, BYU has been very fortunate in games the past couple of years, and they've had a knack of winning. But I think the overall makeup, the twos and the threes, they are deep. They're athletic, they're talented, and it's competitive. And I think, too, that's noteworthy more than ever with this depth piece, because you're now in a 5-5 world where whether they're a true freshman or they're a young sophomore, like their clock's ticking. There's no more, hey, we're going to redshirt you. Like, let's just see some moments in camp. No, you got to perform, whether it's kickoff team, they've got to play, all of these guys. And roster spots are more valuable than ever. So, and they look pretty good from 1 to, I'd say about 95 is where you feel really, really good. I think they're really deep. The last 10 spots, obviously you want to continue to improve those, but it's a good football team. And I think that they've got a schedule that sets up well to give them the ability to be in the national conversation throughout.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, had him just on the outside of the playoffs looking in. What do you think the odds are it's going to look like the last couple of years?
I think that for BYU, really, it's nice that they've got the ability now with the Big 12. You win the conference, you're automatically in. And that's been kind of what's happened the past 2 years. But there was that chance where if you had some other conference that was ranked higher, maybe the Big 12 gets left out. So, you have a direct path. And I think that's huge for BYU. They've got to go do that, because I think this is still a one-bid league. They've got to win the Big 12. I think that this is a year where it should be 2 bids from the Big 12, but I have my doubts. It just feels like there's this unspoken ceiling on Big 12 teams where at the highest they will be ranked in the preseason polls at 12. And, it may be on the next grouping where BYU's at in the coaches poll 15, because really you lay out what BYU has done the past couple of years, 23 wins, and they got the returning quarterback, returning running back, who's the best offensive player in a Power 4 league. You say those things out loud, you say that's probably a top 10 team. But the Big 12 just hasn't shown itself well in the playoff. And I think that loss that Texas Tech had really plays a role in preseason narratives of teams. But I think BYU, I think they get to Arlington. And at that point, I'm really high on Texas Tech still, even without Sorsby. So I still kind of default to them as the Big 12 champ this season, because I think their defense hasn't gone away for Texas Tech. I mean, they've retooled the machine, and I think their evaluations have been hitting it out of the park. That's why they had 9 NFL draft picks this past April. So I still default to them, and I think BYU could be 60 minutes away from the playoff, but I don't think they get an at-large. I don't. I think that they would be 11-1, and they would be left out depending on what if they lose that Big 12 championship game.
Mitch, we'll leave it right there for now. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned to Cougar Board for the latest developments.
You bet, guys. Take care.
All right, there's Mitch Harper. When we come back, Tim Brando from Fox Sports. He's got BYU ranked 14th. That would leave them right on the outside of the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. We'll talk with Tim about that next. DJ PK, and it's time to welcome Tim Brando back to the show. Fox Sports college football and basketball broadcaster. Tim, good morning.
Good morning, fellas. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
You caught our eye. You put out a list of the top 15 college football teams, and we saw BYU at 14, and it's a 12-team playoff, and that could put the Cougars on the outside looking in. A really good year, 3 years in a row. At 14, you're really good, but you're also on the outside looking in. Feel pretty strongly about that, or, hey, you got to put a list out, and there's not much separation, and who the heck knows?
The latter portion of that statement. Listen, at this stage, when you're doing these, and I do them for, as I like to say in the business, blanks and giggles, okay? I do this for fun. I'm paid to call ball, not to predict ball. But I am into it like anybody else would be. And I used to do this when I had my daily radio show that was simulcasted on CBS Sports Network years ago. And I just sort of carried it over and kept doing it because it created conversation, which I love. And I sort of lost with the show, and listen, I don't want to do what you guys do anymore. Trust me, I don't. But I did lose some of the, direct contact with fans, and this sort of enables that to happen. Now, a lot of it is toxic, and, that comes with the territory. But I do enjoy that, and I'm oftentimes told, hey, Tim, we do like it when you respond. Very few people in my business that do what I do will, respond on social media, and I like to do that if it's civil. And, this spawns conversation, helps get me excited for the start of the year. But to answer your question, any of those teams, I even put out an angry 8 for the schools that I left out of the top 15, because the fans that were really pissed after I put out the top 15 were those that I didn't have in there, like Michigan, like USC, like Alabama, and those teams clearly could have great years. Okay, I've looked at this. There's a false narrative out there that's being created by a bunch of ESPN propagandists that believe that they should stay at 16. This latest story that you guys are reading about in terms of, well, let's go to 20, but we'll call it 16 because we're gonna do a play-in. That's more propaganda that's coming up at the 11th hour. That's very similar to what happened with Texas. And if you guys remember this, because you're out west, remember the story back in 2011? Larry Scott was pulling this coup, and he was going to get the Pac-10 to go to a Pac-16.
Yep.
Well, it got undermined when DeLoss Dodds, the athletic director at Texas, agreed to a $30 million one-pay-only deal to create the Longhorn Network, which in effect saved the Big 12, saved teams like Kansas, Iowa State, Kansas State, that would all have been kicked to the curb by those teams moving out west to the Pac-16. And Burt Magnus is a pretty smart guy. He's a programming guy. That's one of their big leaders, and I respect him. He came up with this idea, and it definitely kept the SEC where it is, the Big 12 for a period of time where it was, which enabled, of course, the SEC to get those teams like Texas and Oklahoma that the Pac-10 so badly wanted to get. And I see this story that popped up during their conversations that they had yesterday as a reminder of that this is another example of a late move by the rights holder to hold on to what they've got and not share it with other media partners, because it's in the contract. Anything beyond 16 is ESPN loses control. It's open for bidding. Other networks can be involved. So, that's going on right now. Okay. And I think there are a lot of people out there that would give you this false narrative that only about 8 teams could really ever win a national championship. Fellas, that's bogus. That is bogus. And if you really believe that, you'd have to have amnesia from a year ago. How many times did you guys have to remind people how legitimate Indiana really was?
Yeah.
Okay, because people didn't believe Indiana could do what Indiana did. If ever there were proof that more than just 8 teams now could win it all, Indiana was that. That's Exhibit A. And I would tell you this year, when I'm trying to put together my top 15, and especially the top 12, because I'm projecting, this is a starting grid. This isn't like a AP poll or a coaches poll for me. I'm predicting the way it's going to finish. Okay, like people are going, UNLV, hell, they on there for. But don't you know the rules? There's got to be a group of 5 or now a group of 6 team in the top 12. And UNLV, particularly with the Mountain West teams all migrating to the new Pac-12, that's the lone team left in that league, and I believe they're strong enough to get through that schedule. Once they beat Memphis, and I think they will beat Memphis in week 0, and that's self-promotion here. I'm going to mention David Gardner and I have that game on August 29th. That's the week 0 game. That's a very important game because Memphis is another one of those teams could very easily be, the representative from the group of 6. But I think Dan Mullen's done a hell of a job, and I think the league he's got to navigate now in the Mountain West is far easier now with the teams that have left to form the new Pac-12. But I had trouble putting together 16 15 that I thought were significantly in a better position than the 8 teams that I left out. And most of it is schedule related. Most of it has to do with having the right schedule to go along with the proper pieces. So, listen, I think as many as 30 teams, maybe 35, think that they could make the field of 12. And I think of those 35 or so teams, as many as 15 could win the whole thing. I mean that. I mean it sincerely. With the roster changes year to year, with the NIL and portal all working in concert, we've already seen the justification for that philosophy. But the old guard, particularly at ESPN, and its propagandists, many of them media members in the South that have a big voice, those writers that you see and hear from on a regular basis that are anti-Big Ten, anti-Tony Petitti, they want to have you believe that only watering down the regular season is so crucial. Well, that's just bogus now. Absolutely bogus. The regular season would only be incentivized if we had 24 teams. I thought it was a good idea when it was first mentioned. And now you see everybody else within college football is on board with this, with the exception of who? Greg Sankey and the SEC. There's a reason for that. And that's the reason why this 11th hour move to we're going to have a 20-team format, but we're only calling it 16. Well, if it were 20, really 20, then ESPN would lose its rights that it holds right now under the 12-team format till 2032. That's the issue here. You got to follow the money, fellas. Please follow the money.
That's for sure. I think the Big 12 needs that expansion because they haven't had a second team in, and that is something that needs to happen. We'll see if it happens this year.
Yeah, they're good teams. Yeah, they're good teams. I mean, BYU is a really good team. I would have BYU in the top 12 if not for the fact the Notre Dame game is there. Now, that is a great opportunity for BYU. Okay, and if I'm proven to be wrong, it's because they beat Notre Dame. But that's a tough ask.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, in my opinion, has the second best roster in college football. Oregon's got the best roster. But here's the issue for Oregon. They got 2 coordinators gone. Okay? That's the thing that separates Indiana for me, even though Josh Hoover is certainly not Fernando Mendoza, and he's certainly not Dante Moore either. But you know what? He's got the same coordinator. Signetti keeps that staff together. I mean, they all know their roles. Anybody thinking Indiana was a one-shot wonder, you're out of your mind. That program is as strong in my mind as any one of the blue bloods that's out there. And if their name was Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, or Notre Dame, they would be ranked preseason number 1. They're not, only because their brand obviously still isn't significant enough to warrant that. But I mean, are we going to just believe the brand name propagandists, or are we going to let our eyes lie to us? I mean, Indiana's really, really good. Defense returns pretty much intact. And from an offensive standpoint, the line is going to be good. Through the portal, they handle that. Good running backs. Josh Hoover, who turned it over a lot last year, won't have to win the games by himself now because he's got good runners and a plethora of wide receivers, probably as good as any other than Oregon's in college football.
We're joined right now by Tim Brando, Fox Sports college football and basketball broadcaster. Are there going to be any limits? Do you see the CBA, a collective bargaining agreement, coming? Do you see Congress passing anything that would limit the money? Or do you think the money just keeps going? It's capitalism, and here we are.
Well, I think that if that bill had gotten to the Senate floor last Friday, I think it had a chance of passing. Now, the question will be when they come back, when they reconvene in September, after we get close to we're even closer to the midterms. People are thinking, well, they've got so much other stuff, they might not get to it. I think they're going to get to it. 2 major reasons why. One, you've got those branches of government still on the Republican side. It matters more to the Republican side because their senators and their congressmen are all big-time college football fans. And the president is a big-time sports fan. College football is certainly very much a part of that fandom that he that he so loves. And I think the fact that you had Senator Cantwell on the Democratic side to make this at least a bipartisan bill, there is some Democratic support for it. If they don't get there, and if there are other things going on that are a much greater importance, we don't know what's going to happen, obviously, with a number of these other issues that are out there between now and September. But if they don't get it done, then collective bargaining has got to be the answer. Okay. And it's going to be up to the commissioners to understand that they have to work together to make that work. And I was encouraged to see both the Big Ten and the SEC find a way to make this work with some amendments that were made to the bill. And there may be a couple of more wrinkles between now and September to that bill. But if they don't, then you've got to have a CBA. Some form of exemptions have to be there for them to be able to regulate the way they like. But I think the bill's got more legs than a lot of other people that you might talk to believe.
When do you think the expansion of the playoff will be implemented?
Oh, immediately next year in 27. If the playoff is expanded to 20, it's going to happen right away. We'll know by December 1. Okay, by the end of the year. As usual, college football can't clear itself up, so when the ball starts, we can still just talk about ball. They're going to make us talk about expansion of the playoff, the Senate bill, all of that through the course of the regular season. I wish that weren't the case, but college football, for all of the joy it's brought to many people, including me, through the years, it always finds a way of getting in its own way when it comes to taking eyes and attention off of how great the sport is and onto all the problems the sport is enduring. But all that said, I still believe that it's never been more popular, but it's also never lost as much opportunity to make more money. That's the other thing. By the way, this talk about 16 going into 20 with one rights holder, you're not hearing anything about changing the calendar. You're not hearing anything about, what they can do in terms of ending this thing around January 8th and not January the 25th. And you can bet if ESPN were to convince them to hold on to this 16 versus 20 concept, we can't call it 20 because if we do, we lose the rights. So we'll call it 16, but we're going to have play-in. If that were to happen, we're still going to have the games up against NFL playoff games. ESPN will still be taking about 40% of its inventory and handing it off to Turner because Turner needs to make money for the cable rights to continue to get the money that they get from their subscribers. After they lost the NBA, they were in dire need. So they put all the games that no one watches in the playoffs on Turner because ESPN doesn't want to absorb the ratings defeats that you absorb when you go up against playoff games, wild card games in the NFL. See, that's a crime. And college football would allow itself to have some of its biggest games on opposite NFL games at the end of the regular season and the start of the postseason. Stupid. Absolutely stupid, and they leave a lot of money on the table as a result. I think they'll go to 24 because they're going to see how much money they're missing out on if they don't. Listen, it's all about the money. Forget the conference affiliation. Forget the TV thing. It is about the cash, and they're going to be losing a lot of potential revenue and revenue streams if they don't go to 24. And by the way, without regulation, without any work from the Senate to get this bill passed through, that money's just going to continue to escalate. And eventually the well runs dry, fellas. It runs dry. They need the 24 to exist. That's just the bottom line.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, joining us. Kyle Whittingham going to Michigan has obviously been a big story here. Everyone's curious how much they're going to win. They have a non-conference game with Oklahoma, who's in the playoff. They play Indiana and Ohio State. And I'm leaving somebody out. They got another big game. Oregon. They go to Oregon in November.
Oregon, yeah.
So those are four massive games, and there's still good teams like Iowa. Maybe Penn State bounces back. How much do you think they're going to win? What does Michigan's season look like?
I don't think it's going to go well. I don't. I think Kyle is going to find out how different it is to be in a program that is microscopic by its fans and by media all the time. At Utah, he had total control. Total control. You guys know that. You were around it. He was very comfortable with it. I'm not sure you guys know the circumstances surrounding why they felt the need to go ahead and get it to Morgan Scalley when they did, and he's certainly deserving of having the job. But Kyle's used to doing it his way. And Michigan is such a huge program, it can engulf you. It can absolutely engulf you. And I think there's a comfort zone that he had where he was for all these years that he's going to find out in a hurry does not exist at Michigan. First and foremost, just media obligations. Okay, Kyle's a really hell of a coach. But if ever you were spending time with him, you knew that the 20 or 30 minutes that you were going to get with him before a game, and that's for the broadcasters that were doing the game, not just the local media, you could always tell that he was in a hurry. He was checking his watch the whole time. Well, at Michigan, they're going to be leaning on you for a lot more of your time. And I think it'll be uncomfortable for him. I also think Bryce Underwood is not there yet. I don't think that his game is where his mouth is. He talks often about how great he sees himself as being as the salvation of Michigan football. And I think he's put a target on himself that he really shouldn't be putting on himself, especially against that schedule. And the offense in and of itself has not great players, yes. And Kyle is getting to coach a level of player that's coming in that he's not had in the past. But with that comes dealing with egos that he's not had to deal with. And Underwood is a numero uno when I bring that up.
Tim, we appreciate it as always. We're glad you got to dip your foot back into the world of radio for about 20 minutes. That's about enough, right?
By the way, tell the Bear, I think I'm not saying he's going to hibernate. I think BYU is going to have a hell of a year, and I'd love to be wrong about them. I'd love to see two Big 12 teams get in, and I think they've got a really good shot. I do.
Yeah, we'd love to see it too.
Tim, thank you. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again down the road.
Good to be with you, fellas. Thank you.
There's Tim Brando from Fox Sports. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
Roll out and I'm chasing down a couple times where he be moving. Like, I don't know what it is, but when I'm watching him, I'm running. It's like a movie. I feel like I'm going slow, but he be moving, man. He's been working hard, and he's the one.
Jalen Carter says Jalen Hurts has new levels of speed. He's moving, PK.
No, he be moving.
He be moving. So, 1,000-yard rushing season, 20 touchdowns, Eagles to the Super Bowl. He's unstoppable.
Do I want my quarterback doing that? When I got Saquon Barkley?
Ideally, no. Although, when they did win the Super Bowl, Hurts ran for a ton of yards and Barkley went for 2,000. So, he actually had both guys doing it.
What's a ton of yards? You asked me 1,000, so a ton? Is that
what's the number?
1,000?
It was, it's a lot of the touchdowns with the whole, QB sneak.
You're not even running on that one. The tush pushes.
The tush pushes. The critical yards.
You're going 1/4 speed on that.
I would say he ran for 500, but I don't know. That's off the top of my head.
Oh, that's fine.
How many hits do you take? That's what really matters.
When I got Barkley, who made the most athletic move I've ever seen in my life, when he hurdled a guy backwards.
Just awesome.
It really was. I mean, you realize how strong your core has to be? It's impossible to realize it.
Please replay that again, and they did. We saw it like 10 times from 10 angles. It was great.
Well, isn't that redundant? Replay that again?
And again. And again.
Because if you replay it, you are playing it again.
But they've already replayed it once. Why don't you replay it again?
But once you say replay it, the word replay does not imply a single numerical number. Again and again. That needs to be on the Monday Night Highlight when they do the intro. It was an unbelievable play. That's what we're talking about with the athleticism with these guys, to be able to do something like that. And if you recall, the guys on the bench went berserk, as they should, because they've never seen it either.
What is he doing? He's flying backwards.
It's amazing.
Most of the headline these days just about guys who are injured or being held out because of injury. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua left practice early yesterday. It was reported he had some groin soreness. There are reports the NFL may suspend him for the season opener against the 49ers.
It's just one less game. He has an opportunity to get hurt. Who cares?
Myles Garrett missed the Rams joint practice against Green Bay. Soreness in his knee. The club says they're being smart with the defending defensive player of the year. Coaches report that he said he was feeling about 85% health-wise.
No, me too. Maybe 82%.
49ers coach Kyle Shanahan said defensive end Nick Bosa is dealing with tendonitis in his surgically reconstructed knee and is considered week to week. He's been absent from practice this week.
Well, I mean, hopefully they can make Nick Bosa great again. Like that, Yuck?
Well, he caused some controversy last year with a certain statement.
I have to ask him. I can't ask him.
I know.
You could.
Had a certain hat.
He was not
joking.
Had a certain hat he was wearing that got him in some hot water.
You know, I think
you ever see that Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry David doesn't want to go to lunch with the dude, but he can't apparently stand him up, so he decides to show up on the liberal west side of L.A. with a red hat with 4 certain words across it, and then the guy gets furious and leaves the lunch. He left the lunch. I was there to eat. Yeah.
I think Puka has now reached a level of like Madonna, Cher. It's just Puka.
It's just Puka?
Yeah.
You don't need Nacua anymore. There's no other Pukas.
Right.
It's just Puka.
When you say Puka, he's now the...
Who else could you possibly be talking about?
One-word, one-name athlete.
I like it.
Kareem, MJ.
Puka.
Yeah. Everybody knows who it is now. He's that caliber of player. Hopefully he keeps his head on straight, and he will waltz into the Hall of Fame.
That's a good list. We could work on that. Athletes who are just one name, and you know. John. Nope, no idea who you're talking about. LeBron. It's only one guy.
Well, yeah, it helps that you have an unusual name, too.
CBS Sports says there's no timeline for the return or final decision on the future of Tony Romo with the network as their top game analyst. He was arrested for OWI in Wisconsin last month.
It's amazing how some people get multiple chances on that and others don't. And
we're not clear which one of these camps Tony's going to fall into. He's getting the delayed ruling here.
And I'm not excusing it by any stretch.
Yeah.
It's just that some do and some don't. I don't understand how it works. I mean, I'm not condoning what he did whatsoever in the least.
DJ PK.
If he's guilty.
Hashtag college football.
LSU quarterback Sam Levitt says he has fully recovered from the Liz Frank injury that ended his 2025 season and had him limited during spring ball. Of course, he transferred from Arizona State to LSU in the offseason. He made a stir by saying somewhat facetiously, quote, "I'm from Oregon, so Louisiana kind of felt almost fake to me in a way. I didn't think it was a real place, but after being out here, I love the trees. I've always wanted to be in the South. The humidity obviously was something I had to get used to, but I love it now."
Well, we've been to Oregon multiple times, and they have trees also.
They do. Louisiana has a special kind of heat and humidity, and we've heard about that.
Go ahead.
And they have a ton of SEC games that before TV took over, everybody play in the day, but there were a handful of places, including LSU, that play at night because it was just so miserable.
I've played on LSU's golf course. They have a golf course there. In September, and you're talking to a kid who basically learned and played golf as a kid in Phoenix. And, you know, it's been hot here too. And I have never been hotter in the time I played. And I was the only one out there. There's literally no one else.
Had the course to yourself because everybody's like, this is miserable. I'm not doing this now.
It was the humidity combined with the heat. It was unlike anything. And my father and I, well into my 20s, we would play the upper scale golf courses in the summer because they were cheaper, obviously. And I can say on literal personal experience that I had never been hotter playing there.
Do you have a limit? Like in Arizona, you'll go when it's 105. You'll go when it's 110. You'll go when it's one. Is there a limit where you draw a line? You hear a number, you think, I'm not going.
147.
Come on. I'm just curious with the heat and humidity in Louisiana. It's not, the number isn't that hot for 110, but the humidity.
What I found for me personally is that I can do 110, but not multiple days.
Okay.
So just do it once and then lay off for a week.
A week? Okay.
Well, but I'm not down there
Yeah.
in the summer hardly at all to the level that I used to be. But yeah, because you can go way early in the morning too. And it's, 100, and I know people are 100 is hot, yeah, but it's not 110, it's not 115. But I found that if I've gone, like we've gone down a couple times in the summer for family reasons, and the second day, killer. So I stopped doing the second day.
None of this back-to-back stuff.
No.
LSU or Arkansas? Because you got that story about going to your wife's grandmother's place in Arkansas, and you went out golfing. There were two dudes, and they had like a case of beer each, and they were in cut-off jeans and
no shirts.
No shirts.
No.
How hot and miserable was that? Because Arkansas.
Yeah, it was not pleasant, and I've done it in Georgia also, but still, LSU was literally it was so uncomfortable.
DJ and PK.
#NBA.
What do you make of that opening tip-off?
Fireworks for sure. I mean, they're going to be electric. They're going to be definitely a team to keep your eye on. I mean, they reloaded this year, so it's going to be a tough test, but we'll be ready.
That's the Knicks' Jalen Brunson, the defending champs, facing Philly opening night. LeBron James has moved to the Sixers, so as Jalen says, definitely fireworks. Golden State Warriors GM Mike Dunleavy says the franchise committed to ensuring that icon Steph Curry will retire as a Warrior. He is eligible to extend his contract with the team later this month. He could sign a 2-year, $136 million extension, which would give him 20 seasons with the franchise.
Well, for the Jazz sake, I hope that happens.
Because that's the Warriors' 2 more years as a playing team, or maybe worse.
Yeah. I mean, this is a worn story. The superstar stays and is past his prime. The team is middling, and then he retires, so you have the romantic story there, and then you really start to rebuild.
But as the Jazz try to figure out how do we climb past these 10, 12 teams in front of us,
right.
Warriors, check that box. Next.
And we'll see if they make moves and whatnot. It's not a guarantee, but it looks that way right now anyway, and it looks like that could be a team that the Jazz could catch.
DJ and PK.
#Major League Baseball.
Here's the 1-0 pitch, hit hard in the air, deep to left field. Churrio's going back. He turns to watch. This one gonna go. Luis Rengifo, his first career grand slam, and it puts the Pods ahead 5-0 here in the second.
The payoff pitch. Crow Armstrong drills one deep in the air to right. This is long gone. It bangs off the facade of the upper deck. Wow! Solo shot PCA.
Swings, and this ball game is over. Line drive, right center field, base hit. Dodgers win it 5-4 and a walk-off hit. 6th time this year, the Dodgers have walked it off. Win number 72 for the Dodgers.
Dodgers bouncing back, PK. They lost 8 out of 9. It was a rough week and a half, but now they got a couple of dramatic wins over the Kansas City Royals. Feels like they're getting their feet under them again. Pulling it together. Too good to stay down, right?
But I don't think they're going to face the teams the caliber of the Royals in the playoffs.
There is that, and the losing streak did come against teams that they could face in the postseason.
Right.
Also in there, you heard the Grand Slam power in the Padres. It's what you said about the Diamondbacks with their 10-run game. The Padres beat the Brewers 11-2. They won the first 2 in that series. But you have an 11-run game. Uh-oh. What's going to happen in Game 3 today? Going to have the big drop-off?
It doesn't always happen, but it tends to happen. And 2 nights ago, the Diamondbacks scored 9 runs. Last night, they hit 2 home runs and a triple in the first inning, and that was it.
Padres have won 14 of 18. They're tied with Philly and Arizona. 3 teams dead heat with 41 games to go. Fighting for the last 2 wild cards in the National League. Rays pounded the Athletics 12-4. Does he? At what point? I mean, double figures, double digits. That makes sense. But for a team that scores like the Cubs score 8, but on 9 hits, feel like they're due for a drop off tomorrow. Cubs beat the Nationals 8-6.
Well, it's baseball, so anything can happen. I don't think 8 is that outrageous. I always go double digits.
All right, put on the official scorer's hat here. Get your number 2 pencil and sharpen it. What did you think? The errorless streak that we were talking about, Jacob Wilson of the A's. It goes to 113 games, but controversial. Ball hit up the middle, forced play at second. The second baseman didn't even really help him taking a lap around the bag. I guess that's why the scorer, who originally gave an error and then changed it to a fielder's choice. So the streak goes on. Do you think that was an error?
Well, I haven't seen the play.
Oh. It's right over the bag. Let me back it up for you right here. And the second baseman's committed to the ball and then changes his mind and goes to the bag. So he does not provide a good target if you wonder, where am I going? And the ball was...
second base blocked him.
The ball, he could have... If the second baseman goes to the bag, he could have caught that toss.
Yeah, I don't think that in those situations you can assume an out at second.
And I think that thought right there...
Yeah.
Even though it looked like it was a play that could be made, the second baseman was all over the map. I'm getting the ball. No, I'm going to the bag.
It would have been a bang-banger.
Yep.
So I'm fine with it. Plus, he's an antelope, man. I'm an antelope. Grand Canyon. Although when I went, it was Grand Canyon College. It's now Grand Canyon University. GCU. La-di-da.
La-di-da. Philadelphia Philly star Bryce Harper dealing with left knee soreness after making the move back to right field. Is his body going to be able to handle it? His knee, Ohtani's knee, all kinds of guys with knee soreness and swelling and issues. Mariners have lost 5 in a row. Cal Raleigh, their star catcher, took the blame. He's slumped after AL MVP runner-up and big numbers last year. Quote, "We're not playing well. That starts with me. I'm awful. We're just playing very, very bad baseball in every facet of the game."
Well, he did not greet Randy Rosarina in the World Baseball Classic as teammates, so a lot of people think that is just the baseball gods not happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Mariners 4.5 games behind the Astros and Rangers in the AL West, where 500 puts you right in the middle of everything.
In their 50th year. They had a celebration a few weeks back.
Bees beat El Paso 4-3 series opener. Game 2 today is at noon. You can listen to Tony Parks on the call. 102.7 HD2 and the KSL Extreme beginning at 11:50. DJ and PK.
Hashtag RSL.
Verjunka stabs it back to Luna. Luna has it poked away. Goes, gets it, sends it over to Caliscan. Caliscan through for Salons. Good turn, shot, and a goal! Salons, what a finish! 2-0 RSL. Throwing Dolachun to the box. He'll head it back out of the box for Salons. Back to Caliscan. Caliscan slots the ball through for Yedlin. In front, Lineker Rodriguez punches it in. Flag stays down. Lineker Rodriguez scores for RSL, and it's 3-0. Real Salt Lake beats FC Juarez. They shut him out, and this is why you love Pablo, and this is probably what he taught him at Thunderbird High, PK. A couple weeks ago when RSL lost to LAFC, he said, yeah, but look at all the good stuff that happens. You know, the score doesn't always reflect that. And sure enough, last night he said, yeah, but look at all the bad stuff that happened. The score doesn't reflect it. So you get the similar answer after the win and the loss. Juarez had a penalty that they sent over the bar. They had a goal waved off on another night. Maybe it stands, but it got waved off. They might have played their way back into that game, but they couldn't finish a couple of great opportunities. So RSL gets back-to-back shutouts. And now they got a little help last night, so now they'll wait and see if they can advance. They need some more help tonight and tomorrow. It's 5 teams for 3 spots. They need a couple of the other 4 to lose so they can move into the quarterfinals.
Well, I hope it works out for you guys.
Thank you.
I just think that English, or not English, but Americans with no accent, you just can't say nil. You have to have an accent.
I thought you were going to go to some of the Spanish pronunciations.
Oh, that's even stupider.
Yeah. Well.
If you live down there and speak the language, that's okay, though.
Which obviously I do not, right? Aside from Vladimir in the opener, there's a lot of twirling of the L's and the R's to be done there. All right, so let's see if they get some help here tonight and tomorrow. And RSL's back in action. The quarterfinals are 2 weeks away, later this end of this month. They will be back in action in Major League Soccer play against Minnesota Saturday night at home.
So you're going to do prep football games. Does it start tomorrow?
Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if Skyline plays whomever and they score, are you going to go? That makes and the PAT makes it 7-0.
No, I probably will not do that.
See,
Please try
phony.
it.
That'd be fun to throw
phony.
That'd be fun to throw that on Friday night with Riley and see what Riley's
That
reaction
is phony right there. If you won't do it for one, why won't you do it for the other? That's not who you are. But if I took somebody from Spain, brought him over here to do our football, he would say 7-0.
But how come it's a head coach in football and then it's a manager in baseball? Every sport has its unique stuff, PK.
Good job deflecting,
Thank you.
but that doesn't have anything to do with you.
I learned it from watching you, all right? All right, What's Trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. A new guy for you to watch, though, with Real Salt Lake. The whole thing here has been, Gozo's gone. He was getting his medical stuff done in London yesterday.
Gozo
Gonzo. And so now there were 3 or 4 guys that could play, and one of the first guys they tried, Zach Booth from Eden, Utah, another local guy, another academy product.
Right.
It looks like he's nailing that job down. I mean, they could rotate through and try some other stuff, but they'd have to change formation. Then that changes how you switch from offense to defense. It just makes it more complicated. And it's not that he's as good as Gozo. He's not. Pablo last night was talking about Gozo's a unicorn.
Sure.
But
which is why he is where he is.
And Pablo went to that point, saying you're not going to find another guy in the world who can make that many high-end runs that often, twice a week in games. It's not going to happen. But Booth does have a lot. He is a local guy like Gozo. He does have a lot of speed. He is a willing defender. Now, he can't do that stuff to the same level as Gozo, but there's some similarities there, and it does look like he's there. So you're looking for a young guy, a local guy who is actually from Utah, not brought in from somewhere around the world. Keep your eye on Zach Booth because there's some promise there for sure. All right, that's all the What's Trending stuff. So now, go ahead. Matt Brown, Extra Points newsletter, is going to join us after the break. All the stuff about BYU and Kalani and more resources, football, basketball, AD. It's making news. People nationally are noticing. Matt Brown, Extra Points newsletter, will join us next. Darnell, Dickson, the Daily Herald at 9 o'clock. It's also Win Tickets Wednesday. We got tickets to see Motley Crue and the return of the Carnival of Sins tour with performances from guests Tesla and Extreme at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater September 21st. We'll give those tickets away in the 8 o'clock hour. Stay with us. Matt's coming up next. Question of the day at 8 o'clock. It's all on the way. DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Turn it up. Let's go. It's a new era for sports radio in Utah. This is the all-new KSL Sports Zone. As always, DJ and PK kick off your mornings from 6 to 10. Then introducing the newest addition to the KSL Sports Zone. The coach, Tim Lacombe, joins Scotty G every day from 10 to 2. And as you wrap up your day, Jake Scott and Ben Anderson are there with the best sports talk in Utah from 2 to 6. Live and local, all day, every day. Your home for the best sports radio in Utah is live, on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Matt Brown from the Extra Points newsletter. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Man, it was a big weekend here as everybody saw stuff on Cougar Board and then saw a BYU official actually put something on Cougar Board, which is shocking. Cougar Board's been around for 25 years, to dispel the rumors and say the AD's still in place, knock it off, quiet down. And we realized this story, then news travels, and now it's become a story nationally, and I think we're all curious how it's hitting as people around the country find out about this. So, Matt, you're right here with us. How's it hitting? How's it landing?
How's it hitting? I think once you get outside of the state of Utah, the more interesting thing to people is, wow, BYU's posted on Cougar Board now, rather than, BYU's athletic director may or may not be in trouble / may or may not be being terminated soon. Once we get into fall camp season, where we are right now, I could tell you as someone whose entire career is writing about things like athletic directors hiring or being fired, most fans don't care about that as much. I understand why it's a big story here locally, especially given Kalani's comments a couple of days ago, given BYU's new hire of an experienced, potential quasi-AD from Kentucky. I understand there's a lot of questions, but the biggest national thing is, this is something you don't see every day, and this is a very specifically chosen word and statement. Things that make you go, I know that radio is a visual medium and everything, but I'm making the Brian Windhorst face right now as we're talking. Just why would they do that? Interesting.
Yeah, I think that the timing of it all is something that I think Kalani chose to do it. He went on Ben Criddle's show and said what he said, and I think it was on purpose. I think it, in his mind, it was time to say that, and I spent probably 4 hours on the thing yesterday. Wrote a piece for KSL.com that they published overnight. It's up now. And the idea of money not coming, promises not being kept, and then being redirected to basketball, all that stuff, that's all in there. What do you think the fallout could be? Or maybe a lesser word would be ramifications.
Yeah, this is an interesting kind of place and market, right? Because at most of the country, not everywhere, but most of the country, when you have a battle between an enormously popular, successful, and recently extended head football coach and an athletic director or a senior administration official who hasn't been there that long, the coach wins 9 out of 10 times. Part of the job of being an AD is the very difficult task of telling a respected and coach who makes 6 times what you make, tell that person no. And there's tensions there. We can look at Utah for that. We can look at Kentucky for that. We can look at Michigan and lots of other places where those things happen. I have followed this program enough and been doing this beat long enough to know that BYU is not the kind of place where they're going to let they're going to terminate an AD, less than 2 years into that person's tenure, right. Especially because there's so few people in this industry that have the administrative experience and a temple recommend that you can't just fly through those people. You're not going to terminate someone so early in their tenure unless you have an extremely good reason. So what ends up happening is you kind of, I don't want to say passive aggressively, but there are political ways to make your frustrations known, and how Kalani phrased things is one way to do that. And then that you end up with some meetings, and you yell at each other in the meetings, and then you figure it out and you move on. And in 2 months, if BYU's winning football games, nobody will remember this but nerds like us. If this was at Ohio State or Texas, things could turn out a little bit differently, for good or for ill, because this is a different kind of market and more private, and even among private schools. I would be surprised if this is still a talking point in mid-October. If it is, something's gone terribly wrong in Provo.
That's an interesting point about it, something gone terribly wrong, because to your point, these kinds of things happen in lots of athletic departments, but how far does it go before it gets resolved? And there's a thought here. Is football cannibalizing the rest of the department? Are we just at a point where financially it should be, because the whole department and what league you're in rests on how good you are in football? How is this playing out? Are you seeing these kind of battles between football and basketball in other sports, especially at the schools where basketball is more of a priority?
If we're being honest, the number of schools where basketball is legitimately more of a priority than football in FBS, we can count on one hand. Even at places with enormously popular and significant basketball traditions, like Kansas and North Carolina, when your job is the financial bean counter and you look at where the public attention comes from, it's still football. Football will always need more resources, even if you are a quote unquote like basketball institution, because your basketball roster has 15 guys, right? You've got 4 assistants, and you might have, we can throw in some GAs and a GM and a Dobo and everything else. You're looking at like a total staff of 30 people. And that's football is going to be 6 times that, just in terms of roster size and everything that you need administratively, which it kind of seemed like Kalani was getting at a little bit more, rather than just, oh my God, I need more money to pay my tight end. It's we're running a business here, and we don't want people having 4 or 5 different administrative jobs, and folks have that in other schools in this conference. With the tension though between football and basketball, and for that matter between football and every other sport, that's a constant almost everywhere. It requires a truly enormous amount of money and uncommonly strong hires to be good at everything. Most of the schools that are really, really good at football are not as consistently really, really good in men's basketball. And the ones that are, places like Alabama, places like Florida, places like Michigan, are playing in a different financial stratosphere than where BYU is playing. All that's to say, though, I don't think I know enough as some doofus in Chicago to say the problem with BYU administratively right now is basketball. I don't think we have enough information to necessarily say that. I get why that's like the popular narrative. This could just be a failure to communicate.
I think part of the issue here is that there's a lot of hands involved. You know, it's not a coach, athletic director, it's athletic director and then folks above him. And sure. BYU is trying to navigate this world of the mission of the university, obviously educating the students, but also the connection to the Latter-day Saint Church. It's direct, right? We all know that, and there's really no point in arguing about it, what have you. But in talking with some of the people, the idea is it needs to be run more like a business, and where do you get the biggest return on the investment? So BYU doesn't want to be seen as a sports factory and a football factory, but at the same time they say they want to win at the highest levels, which requires the types of commitment probably that we're going to see from Texas Tech and have been seeing. So they have to come to some type of acceptance of that. And I think that's part of the issue, as it's a little bit of a struggle for them, given the fact that they are a religious institution, and we understand and respect that, but at the same time trying to win and how they balance that. I think that's part of the issue here.
You may very well be right. You know, you guys being local are always going to have a probably a more clear perspective on this. I've written about this before. We might have even talked about it. Broadly speaking, I know there's an uncomfortable culture shift, because in my experience growing up in the LDS church and being around the LDS church and covering BYU and covering college sports for so long, for most of my life, the common perception was you don't work for BYU or any LDS affiliated enterprise for the money. You're not going to get paid the highest rate if you're a German professor or a software engineer or a basketball coach, because they want people that want to be there for the mission, right? Like, you're still going to get paid, but they don't want people to be in Provo just for the money. And there's positives and negatives to that philosophy, but I understand it and I grew up with it. And that doesn't work in football or basketball or college sports right now. And to either BYU's credit or BYU's detriment when it comes to coaching and when it comes to paying for athletic talent, that mindset has shifted. But if I'm a 72-year-old dude in Sandy, I can understand why you might look at this and think, oh my gosh, the world has changed, BYU and the church has changed, and I'm uncomfortable with it. And some of those people have administrative, ecclesiastical, or political power, and I get how that's a difficult thing to navigate, and I can't possibly say, from my perspective, what the right decision is, right? Because the stakeholders here and what you want, it's different from Notre Dame and different from everyone else. The other thing I think I'll quickly add that's important, I think, in these kind of dynamics, and that it's different from the last 5 or 6 years. When you say, hey, BYU athletics needs to run a little bit more like a business, or big-time college sports needs to run more like a business, and that's true everywhere. And when that happens is now you have a new group of stakeholders that have more power and influence than maybe they did a decade ago, and those are major donors. Are now your quasi-investors. We would not have been having the conversation about the proverbial cookie man the way that we did, last year, in this new era. And so, if you're a senior administrator at a place like BYU, you got to manage the suits in Salt Lake, you got to manage the suits elsewhere on campus, and you got to manage the people now that are giving you 6, sometimes 7 figures and wanting influence. And you need those people more than maybe you did 15 years ago when there wasn't an athletic payroll. And that's not an easy political job.
Right.
Matt Brown joining us, Extra Points newsletter. Maybe this all gets worked out. He gets the money, and like you said, it's this is a footnote as the games are being played. But if he doesn't, and if he's frustrated and he doesn't see it getting better and he wants to take a job somewhere else, he passed on Penn State. What do you think the appetite would be for Kalani if USC or Oklahoma or Texas or some other big-time job comes up?
Yeah, this should be a relatively active year. I think in the coaching carousel, I expect there to be other Big Ten and Big 12 jobs that are going to open up this cycle. We know there's a couple of folks in the SEC that are going to have significant pressure on them, even though this was a big cycle in that conference. And he'd be one of the better coaches on the market, especially if BYU lives up to their preseason projections here and contends for a Big 12 championship. I don't know whether they're going to win or if they're going to finish third, or because the difference between first and eighth in this conference is so small. But yeah, he would be an attractive person for somebody like a USC if that opened up. It's going to be expensive for someone to pry him out of Provo, and I understand all of the other reasons why he might want to stay. But yeah, if he's actually mad, and if you promised it, and I'm saying it because I don't know this, I'm not reporting it, but if he was promised something and if he didn't get it, like any other employee who is desirable on the market, yeah, you're at risk of alienating or losing that person. And that happens in college sports sometimes. It happens with players every year.
You say you're in the Midwest, so I got something that is in your wheelhouse. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this, and it was involving Kyle Whittingham saying about the question became about the hate of Ohio State, right? And I've got extended family in the Michigan area. My mother-in-law is from there and been back there, and it's my wife's family, not mine, but I've spoken to him many times, and you got to hate Ohio State. And I came back and I said, I don't think it's a big deal that Kyle didn't come out, I hate those you-know-whats, but I said that I thought it was going to be a story, and sure enough, when he gets back into town, they ask him about it, and he responds, well, if I hate him more, is that going to help us win? I mean, so I thought it was a great response, but I knew it would be a story. Even though it's not a big story, it's kind of a funny off-the-wall story. What do you think of it?
It's so funny. They're still talking about this here.
Yeah.
And I actually think I was hoping somebody would ask you about this when I was doing radio in this market, because I think there's some important differences between the Holy War rivalry and Ohio State, Michigan. I'm from Columbus. I live in Chicago now. I went to Ohio State. I know that rivalry very, very well. And I've been trying to explain to people here locally, of course Kyle would say that. He's a BYU grad that coached at Utah and is great friends with BYU's head coach. And that rivalry, BYU-Utah, is different from Ohio State-Michigan because unless you live in Toledo, you don't live on top of Michigan fans or Ohio State fans in this area. You're not as likely to have somebody at church who roots for the other team, or a boss, or necessarily a neighbor. It's much more homogenous. And if you're in Salt Lake or anywhere, within these two schools, you're going to have every element of your social circle is going to have people from both fan bases. So you can't like capital H hate them the same way. You want to beat them. It dominates your recruiting. You'll get fired if you don't win. But you have to live with these people in a way that you don't with Ohio State, Michigan. The difference in OSU, Michigan is that, like, on the field and financially and culturally and structurally, that game's more important because that's usually for a conference title, national title implications. BYU, Utah is usually not going to be for playoff spots or anything. That might change in the future, but historically that hasn't been the case. But I think Kyle's exactly right. And I think there's a learning curve here on both sides because the cultural differences between his previous employment and jobs and where he is now are significant. But anybody who's close friends with Urban Meyer is going to understand the importance of the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. It's not like Kyle doesn't want to win that game.
So Ryan Day leaves Ohio State and Kalani ends up there. How weird would that be? You know, if you're just going to play out hypotheticals, how weird would that be?
It would be it would be so weird, and I think as someone in my position, that would be a thing I think I'd have to write a book about, right? Like I would suddenly be a very popular national radio guest if Kalani comes to Columbus. I don't know how much you'd like it, right? I mean, things have changed since I lived there, but I can't recall too many other Polynesian brothers and sisters in the 614 area code, but I guess there weren't that many in State College either.
Well, Matt, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for giving us a little national perspective to the story of the weekend.
Of course. All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Matt Brown, you can check him out with his Extra Points newsletter, hip deep in college football and college sports. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The question today is coming up at the top of the hour. It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. We'll give the concert tickets away in the 8 o'clock hour. Stay with us right here on The Zone. Join Scotty G and the Coach Friday from 10 to 2 at Tim Daly Mazda, 10785 South Auto Mall Drive in Sandy. The weird story of the day, PK. I read it. It took a while, but then I saw the video. Did you see that story about the high school football player in Arkansas who was at practice and had a 2-foot-long cottonmouth snake inside his helmet for quite a while, apparently? He finally took it off, and then they couldn't get the snake out of the helmet until they doused it in water.
Haven't thought about that, a snake in football, since Kenny Stabler passed.
Legend, Kenny the Snake Stabler.
Who I stood next to at the urinal in LAX.
This story gets out of control very quickly.
That's the truth.
I know. You told me the story. Here they are. They put this.
What's up, Snake?
They put it in one of those a smaller ice bucket.
Oh, yeah, I heard the story.
And it forced the snake finally to come up for air.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And now, if full grown, which this wasn't, this is a juvenile here, but full grown, it's a potentially.
Minor?
Yeah, it was. It couldn't drive yet. Full grown, the bite could be
of course
dangerous. I mean, potentially fatal. Now, this wasn't full grown.
Who wants to get bit by a snake?
Nonetheless, just creepy to have a snake inside the helmet.
That's impossible to comprehend.
Right. There it is. I guess you just set your helmet on the ground. That wouldn't be that unusual. And then the snake slithers through the grass and into the helmet, and away you go. And yikes. That guy's got a story for life, though. He's got a story every reunion, every wedding. Can you top this? I don't think people are going to be topping his story very often.
No, it's bizarre. Yeah, the things you can hear and see and learn about are just off the charts, and that was right there when I saw that. It's been a couple of days ago now, I think. That
the story came out a couple of days ago, but yeah. I just saw the video last night.
Okay.
So I retweeted that. You go to X, you can see it there if you want to see them approach that thing very carefully. They got the long stick and I don't know what it's called. Looks like a grabber, whatever. No one's putting their hand anywhere near that thing. Smart move.
Right.
Football's almost here. High school football kicking off tomorrow night. I think there's 3 or 4 games tomorrow night. And we got a couple of them on KSL Sports on the app or KSLSports.com. And then the full schedule Friday, a couple more games on Saturday at Snow College. And so that just means college is that much closer, PK. 2 more weeks.
Oh, yeah, it's football time because the NFL really gets underway with this preseason stuff. Tomorrow there's a slew of games, and then it's basically now until the end of February or the middle of February with the bowl. So, yeah, I understand that, and that's something that we all look forward to. and it marks, not to quote any presidential candidate, but it really marks the passage of time. And the passage of time means that time passes. And so... What are you looking at?
You and Yak. I mean, those are my options. I got you to my right. I got Yak to my left.
You can look at the wall.
I saw your face. That would be weird. I could, though. You're
just
right.
turn around.
That is, but yeah. It was just a segment like this. We'll finish the segment this way. All right, go ahead, PK.
Well,
I was just looking at you.
I no offense, but I would appreciate that. I appreciate that more.
I was looking at you. Oh, yeah, none taken. I was looking at you, and I was just imagining what was on Yak's face. And sure enough, when I looked over there, it was the exact look. There's a little comedy, a little bemusement, a little what is happening here, a little bit of, well, if he's like this now, what does it mean for the next segment or the next hour? Where are we going here?
Got 2 hours to go.
Yeah, right? And it was all there. It was all on your face, Yak. You did not disappoint. Very reliable.
And I would caution all those teams that have struggled in the past, don't be unburdened by what has been.
Okay. I don't know how many people can recall that, but well played.
Because it's a new season. New seasons, no matter what they are, always should bring a level of optimism, man. Especially at the high school level. Because for 99.9, this is it. And this is something you've been doing. If you're a senior, this is something you've been doing probably since you're 8 years old. And this is it, man. And you've got, 9, 10 games guaranteed whenever they play?
Depends on the school, yeah. 10 regular season. Right. And they've tightened up the playoffs this year. The 24 team playoffs and the bigger classifications are down to 16, so no guarantee of playoff games.
Right. And then it's over. And then that's it, man. That is it.
Tackle football isn't coming around again.
No.
You're not putting on the pads and the helmet.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to play baseball one season out of high school, and I can recall in a playoff situation when it was ending, it was everything to me, knowing full well that was it. And it had been something that I'd been doing forever and ever. And I can go play softball, and I played softball from when I first got out into college at the A level, and then dropped down, played Daily Breeze. We had 2 leagues, and we wanted to win a title, so we dropped down to the D League to win one, and we got it.
Did you get promoted? Did they force you out? All right, no sandbagging and back-to-back. On to the C League with you.
Yeah. They moved you up. So, we did. We finally got one, and I don't see those guys as much anymore. If at all, I'll see a couple of them next week, but you still talk about it, and it's part of what we do. I assume other countries, but I haven't lived anyplace else. What we do as American males who are into sports, and American females if they're into sports, it's what they do, and when it's over, it's sad, and there's so much anticipation. You work so much year round now, basically. For this opportunity to run out on the field, and that'll happen this week for the high schools, and KSL apparently is going to be all over it. You know way more about it than I do. I'm not involved in it.
27 games streaming on KSLSports.com and the KSL Sports app over the next 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
That'll obviously be all season too, right?
Right. Yeah, and that'll be the ballpark number. It'll change a little bit week to week, but I would expect a couple dozen games. And they come from all over the state. Some of them are produced here by this staff, and then some are produced by other groups around the state and carried. So you can watch games out of St. George. You can watch games out of Central Utah. I am not in charge of this.
But you have some leadership role in it.
A little bit. Visualizing how to change it, how to grow it, and that kind of stuff. But, I mean, Nate Dowdle is in charge of it. But there are different people who have, like you say, some level of responsibility. JJ has a level of responsibility. He's scheduled a bunch of Thursday games this year. I think 9 of the 10 weeks he'll be calling a Thursday game. Same for me, 9 of the 10 weeks. There's a couple Wednesdays late in the year. The schools are moving games.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, when they have the fall break.
They have the fall break. Yeah, so you see games get moved the last 2 games. So those days, the question last week is how many Friday games will we do? It's a very small schedule, the final Friday of the year, because everybody's getting ready for playoffs. And now for the bigger classifications, there's going to be a bye week before the playoffs for everybody because they got rid of that opening round.
And then they end up at Rice Eccles as usual?
Semifinals and finals. Mid to late November, as usual. Same deal.
Yeah,
three triple headers, 4A, 5A, and 6A scheduled.
Will you be there?
I assume so, yeah.
Cool.
All right, DJ and PK, more football in a minute. The question of the day, how long do you think Kalani Sitake stays at BYU? We will get to that next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The KSL Sports Zone of Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to Jake and Ben for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Question of the morning. How long do you think Kalani Sitake stays at BYU? Already done a decade, PK. That's pretty long run in college sports. On the other hand, if he wants to be the Polynesian Lavelle Edwards, he's 19 years away. Got a couple more decades to put in here. Obviously, it's been in the headlines here. Tony says, I have to believe he has more money than he can spend. I think legacy matters to him. If the athletic department can keep him happy, he'll be revered as much or more than Lavelle Edwards. He's staying as long as he wants.
Yeah, that's pretty much what every fan base thinks if their coach is winning. Mm-hmm. There were people who thought Urban was going to stay. Mm-hmm. And he'll never leave and that type of thing. So that the fans tend to think that.
But that last phrase that Tony published here on Facebook, he's staying as long as he wants. Yeah, and what if he wants is like 3-4 months from now?
Right.
I mean, I believe everything you said, Tony, including the last sentence. He's staying as long as he wants, and there's no guarantee how long he wants.
Well, you have to see what's available. I mean, just look at December, and talking to Riley Jensen yesterday, and he's a good friend of Jay Hill. Got Jay Hill on the show while you were gone a couple weeks back, and in the beginning of the month, he thought there was a good chance that he was going to be the BYU head coach, and the end of the month comes, and he's the defensive coordinator at Michigan. I mean, you talk about...
You never know.
In a span of 3 weeks.
Right.
That is crazy.
It is, and yet that's college sports today.
Right. You have to strike, and obviously he has a long-standing relationship with Kyle, and Kyle wanted him, and, it was an unbelievable opportunity, and he took it. We understand all that. And so what's to be available? And it just doesn't have to be, somebody is not doing the job. Lincoln Riley's under the spotlight. He hasn't won the level that SC wants, that expected to, with the big fat contract and the $17 million house that they have, that he has in Palos Verdes Estates overlooking Catalina on a clear day, right? $17 million. And
awesome.
Yeah, right.
I dare you to go up there and find something to complain about. Yeah. I guess you could say, it's up on the hill. It's a long way down to the beach and the surf and PV with, mostly rocky cliffs.
Yeah. Well,
I guess they found something to complain about there.
3 or 4 miles tops to where you want to get in the water, if that's what you want. And plus, there's a surf area there that has been under dispute for years, because if you're not from there and you go there, they rough you up. And that has been ongoing for many, many years.
Locals only.
Yeah, and so, but that doesn't mean that he has to have a bad season. He can have a great season, and the fill-in-the-blank NFL team can come. Right, that's a possibility too. Everybody's looking, if he doesn't go in the playoff, he's going to be under the. Well, he can go to the playoff and actually win the whole thing and still be gone. You just don't know what's going to be out there, and that could be anybody. Can happen. Lanning over there in Oregon, up the coast a little bit. Mm-hmm. It could be him. You can go down the list of coaches, and everyone's searching for a great coach. If you don't have one, right? And who knows what could happen. So it's impossible to say, and that is the point. Yeah, most likely he has some stature where If he wanted to be there the next 3 to 5 years, he absolutely could be. But who knows? I mean, he clearly has frustration. There's just no doubt about it. And I've spoken to enough people to know and you go read what I wrote at KSL.com I think I put it in a synopsis pretty good from Kalani's perspective. And here we are, and these are real issues. And the statement that he made when we were there in December, I want to win, but I want to win, which means I want to win it all. And with that in mind, if I don't think it can be done here, then I'm going to go someplace else, even though that spot is really good. Lane Kiffin could have had a statue at Ole Miss, right? There's no doubt about it. But why did he take it? Because he thought LSU's a better job.
The odds of winning it all at LSU are much better than the odds of winning it all at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
LSU's done it. Ole Miss hasn't. LSU's done it multiple times.
But he could have been the ultimate football coach at LSU or at Ole Miss, and he would have been richly compensated and blah, 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 blah. But he chose to leave because on paper it looks like LSU is a better program, right? So he left. Well, that could be the same thing here.
Zachary, if they have another season like the one they had last year, someone will back up the Brinks truck for him, and he'll have to decide if Ryan Smith's money is enough to keep BYU competitive long term, or if he wants to chase a title with a Big Ten team.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it all on Ryan Smith. I mean, it's an easy because he's the most identifiable booster, and he's rich beyond his wildest dreams, I'm sure. But I think it's more than that.
And you more than think it.
Yeah.
You believe it and know it. And I do think that the whole crumble cookie thing helped shift some of the spotlight off Ryan. I mean, obviously Ryan's very wealthy and he's high profile and he's public facing, and so people know his face and his name. But now people are starting to see some of the other faces and names.
Kevin Young talked about that when he flies out of Salt Lake and drives back to Utah County. He said he passes his 10 multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Right, and so, and they're there. I can name you other names that wouldn't mean much to the public, but they're out there. So, yeah, with that in mind, and crumbles there. I had a crumble cookie in downtown Chicago a couple weeks back. I split it with my wife. I want to be healthy here.
Nice.
Got
to be light on your feet chasing a foul ball at Wrigley?
We were doing a lot of walking that day.
Okay.
So... there are others out there. What's it going to be? What's it going to be with his next offer, which I believe will come? He's only 50 years old. He'll turn 51 in October. So he's got 15 years minimum if he wants. And he's such a just a warm person. And remembers names and is just he is the true people person, and people like being around him because he makes you feel good. He makes you feel like, wow, you're important to him, and it doesn't matter who it is. And it's so natural. It's not phony. Riley, we were talking yesterday, and he brought up the big thing about Sarkisian. He really came down hard on Sarkisian. I don't know if you heard that while you were gone. And his big thing was authenticity, authentic. You've got to be authentic, right? And we had on Eric Kerr, who Riley knows and has known for many years, and he's the Weber State coach, and they kick off here in a couple of weeks over in northern Colorado on Friday. And I was teasing him, I saw him at Corner Canyon, and he was like a god there, man. I mean, he owned the place.
You've told me stories about going to basketball games there, and he would come over because your wife was on the staff in the athletic department as a PE teacher and coaching, assistant coach for girls golf. And so obviously they knew each other and
we
interacted.
Support the teams.
Yeah, and you were telling me stories about the way people came up, whether kids or parents, or in the way people talked to them. Right. You were almost like, oh, in the background.
And I would sit next to him, and we would just yuck it up a little bit. And so I said, now it's going to be different because you had the 15 and 16-year-olds mesmerized. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to get 20, 21, 22, And he said, well, you got to be authentic. And Riley shot me a look. See, I know what I'm talking about. and where I'm going with this is that I don't know that I've ever met a more authentic person than Kalani Sitake. Certainly in the coaching world, and I've met several, but he's authentic as they come. And that is important. So if he has another good season, absolutely they're going to be, if there's opportunities, they're going to come his way. Because he's had multiple opportunities, so why wouldn't he? And then he has to decide. BYU has to decide what they want to do. You know, do they really, really want to go in and win? When I say at all costs, I'm not talking about reducing or changing the moral implications of the honor code and all that. I'm literally talking financially. When I say at all costs, they're not going to strip away the foundation and the connection with the Latter-day Saint Church. It's never going to happen. We all respect it. Great. But I'm speaking specifically money. Are they going to be in it at all costs? Because the costs are constantly rising. And is that something they want to do, or they want to say, hey, we've got enough to be competitive, now it's up to you? Well, that's not going to be good enough for some people, and maybe it's not good for Kalani. Apparently it isn't good right now.
So the question then is the bar set at the top of college football at $40 million, at $50 million, at $60 million, at $70 million? It's changing all the time. It's a moving target. That discussion changes every year. And then what is BYU's number in relation to that?
Right.
Kalani does have an emotional tie. If the top number is 50, and if he's getting 45, he'll probably come back to a meeting and say we need $5 million more, but I don't think he's leaving over that. Now, if the bar is $40 million and they're at 15, you're at risk of losing him. And I just think you are.
Fair.
And then those numbers, and I find this very hard to cover and frustrating, because talking to people about this, which I think all of us have been since, this stuff started coming out about a week ago, people will quote you numbers, and they're not quoting the same numbers. Some people quote by percentage, some people quote last year's numbers, some people are quoting this year's numbers. I thought you brought up an excellent point, because I wondered how much of this is Kalani worrying about money for 2027. And you're like, why don't you think he's worried about money for 2028? He's talking to juniors now, and we've heard the stories, is it the first or the second or the third conversation when the parents bring up money? It's coming. And they don't like it when it's the first thing, but they know it's coming. And maybe some people do hold off until the second or third or fourth conversation.
They do. Everyone's turned off if it is the first and foremost 90% priority.
Right.
And BYU's had that, and they've
moved on.
Yeah.
Moved on to other kids.
I can name names.
Yeah. Don't prioritize this guy. Let's go prioritize somebody else.
Right.
And so you're right. I mean, Kalani is looking at this through, hey, what is it costing in 2027, 2028, and 2029? And they're starting to have those conversations with kids, sophomores and juniors. I mean, we always hear about the 8th grader who's been offered, usually by a school who can't land them, who wants to get their name out there. That's the way that game tends to be played. So he's looking at all those things, and what is he thinking? When I was just getting started in radio, a bunch of us did college radio together at UC Santa Barbara, and then several of us, one kid was older.
You can chop Jim Rome's name. Go ahead.
No, this isn't a Jim Rome story. It's Dan Kerman, Jamie Riddell, if you
But you got a relationship, so it's legit. You're authentic.
I know. I am, but in this case, it wasn't Jim. Jim wasn't at the station yet when this happened, although he came through the same station. He left and worked for his dad's business before he got back into radio. And so Dan, who was a year older and had been at KTMS earlier, we had, as we were talking yesterday, we had crazy managers and owners, but we were protected by the news director, who was awesome. And he was already turning into Mr. Santa Barbara, and he was in his late 20s. He acted like he was in his late 30s. He was so mature, and he had so much vision about the way the business worked. He was amazing. And so he would go to lunch, and sometimes he's chasing a story, and sometimes he's meeting a friend. He's working splits mornings and afternoons. So if he's gone for a long lunch, it doesn't matter. He's still putting in a 10-hour day. His name was John Palmentary. And John would come back, and Dan was always freaking out about whether John was meeting with somebody from TV to jump to the only TV station in town, KYT. And he would always pester John. And finally, one day, John had enough, and he looked at him and he goes, Dan, I could be here 5 years. I could be here 5 minutes. You're going to have to learn to live with that. we thought that was hilarious. Jamie and I thought that was hilarious. Some other people on the staff who heard it thought it was hilarious. We all repeated it to the people who weren't there. Everybody was laughing. And then we gave Dan a hard time. It's like, Dan, you're looking for a TV job too. They're not paying a lot of money in Radio Market 170. Nobody thinks this is a career. No, there isn't one person who thinks you can live in this job for the next 40 years. We're all looking. We have to. And sure enough, it was like a year later, John left. And I have used that line so many times. It's so true. And you have to change the numbers. I could be here 30 years. People talk to us about being older. And I'm like, well, you plan for retirement and you plan what you want to do. But let's be honest. We've all gone to funerals for people and like, you didn't know it was coming. And it's shocking when it happens. And then you got to go to a funeral for somebody. And you're like, we could all be here 30 years. We could be here 30 minutes. You know, you got relatives, take your age plus 30. You could be here 30 years. You could be here 30 minutes. And I think that's the thing for Kalani right now. I just don't have a good feel for this. I go back to John Palmentary and Dan Kerman and think Kalani could be here 12 weeks. He could be here 12 years. Don't know.
You don't. There's just no way. Especially in that world where things happen and happen quickly. When we used Lincoln Riley as the example, well, when he took the SC job, all of us were surprised because we thought, wow, Oklahoma, I mean, that's a hotbed right there, you know, and they've had a long history of great football, and so it was a surprise.
He was barely getting started when he was there. It's like 4 or 5 years.
And he's a younger dude.
Yeah.
And he could have built a Switzer-like legacy without the shenanigans. And he chose to take off, right? And that's why they hate him over there. So you got that going on too. So you really never know. And Kalani could be here for 20 years. Yeah. I mean, I hope he is, because I'll make this announcement right now. I plan to keep this job for another 20 years.
You could be here 20 years. You could be here 20 minutes.
2046, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. How do you think I work out every day?
Yes, we know you hit the bench every day. We get it.
I don't do bench every day.
You tell us that.
Well, I know, but the health club asked me not to.
Enough showing off. Got it.
All the people gawking can move around.
Too much traffic.
Well, that would give you like 15 years to see if the Utah Outlaws can win a World Series.
Oh, yeah, man. If I'm still working and they announce it, I got to go a couple more.
You got to, man. We got to go out to the ballpark.
Right.
Some random Monday night, and the Padres or Diamondbacks are coming to town. Let's go to a game.
The only thing that could change that, if it happens, and I hope it does, that if they gave me like a lifetime press pass. So I'm retired, but I still can get in and hang out in the
for
press
your
box.
incredible contribution to the sports media.
Yeah.
Here's
Steve Starks is your path to that.
Right.
That's your path. We've known Steve a long time.
Now, I have friends who have lifetime ball passes to all ballparks.
That's because if you're a beat writer, how many years do you have to do it? Is it 20?
I think it's 10.
10? Okay.
And you have Hall of Fame credentials.
10 years as a beat writer. Get a lifetime pass.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. And I have some people, I know people well who have that.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Darnell, Dickson, the Daily Herald at 9 o'clock. It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. We'll give those tickets away. You want to do it after the break, Yak? All right, on the other side of the break, Win Tickets Wednesday. Concert tickets will send you out to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Motley Crue coming to town. Stay with us. We'll do that next.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoe.
For Utah, it's offense and maybe defensive line, but primarily the offensive line. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I got to dig a little deeper here. But honestly, the more I kept looking at it, the more I kept thinking, it really comes down to those two position groups. Can Utah have offensive linemen that can step up?
You know, I think the big question mark outside of the offensive line for Utah nationally is Morgan Scalley.
Yeah.
But, nobody even talks about that around here, because I think everybody has a real comfort factor with the way things looked in that bowl game, honestly. But the bottom line was they were sharp. They took advantage of opportunity more so than maybe a Whittingham team would. It felt like the guys were loose and ready to ball. That's like a sign. And then you hear all the stuff from the guys, how happy they are.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is time to give away the tickets on a Win Tickets Wednesday. Caller 12 at 801-575-ZONE wins a pair of tickets to see Motley Crue and the return of the Carnival of Sins tour with performances from Guest Tesla and Extreme at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on September 21st. Call right now, 801-575-ZONE. PK, we were just talking about sports and coaches, and you never know. You never know how long someone's going to be in place. You never know how long before something surprising is going to happen and everything is going to change. And while we were talking about it, something happened in sports and everything changed, and nobody would have predicted it when they went to bed last night or when they got up this morning. And yet, as we sit here at 8:32 in the morning, the Lakers have been sold for $12 billion.
Quick update I just came across, $12.5 billion.
Don't want to cheat him out of another $500 million.
Came down.
American businessmen Josh Kushner and Bob Iger, a record-breaking price. There are many stories. There are many threads to follow here. What kind of owners will these guys be? It was Mark Walter, who owned the Dodgers, and he bought them from the Buss family for about $10 billion. So now it looks like he's making a 25% profit flipping them and basically the snap of a finger here. And we thought, hey, the Dodgers are run well. The Lakers will be run well. This is going to be a tough hurdle for everybody in the West. Here come the Lakers again. The Busses were hampered. They didn't have enough money. They couldn't build out the front office, the scouting department. We've heard all those stories. And that helps everybody in the West, including the Jazz. Well, now Walter's going to run it right. Well, now Walter isn't going to run it. Kushner and Iger apparently were hip deep in trying to get the Vegas expansion team, and they pivoted. Who needs an expansion team in Vegas when you can get an iconic franchise in L.A.?
And I thought those California taxes. State taxes.
Yeah, well, it's the Lakers, though. It's worth it.
Yeah, Iger is the Disney guy, the ABC guy. Kushner, born in Livingston, New Jersey, a few miles away from where I was born, and his older brother's Jared, who is married to Donald Trump's daughter.
Yes. I think people recognize the Kushner name now. It's been in the headlines a few times.
But the Kushner who buys the Lakers, he married a model named Kloss is her last name. Oh, and she voted straight Democrat since 2016. I think got a little conflict here.
Conflict in the family. What is Thanksgiving like?
But she converted to Judaism before she married the guy. And shortly thereafter, they bought a house in Miami for $23.5 million.
State taxes.
Yeah.
Residence. Established residence.
Beach.
Visit L.A. Beach.
East Coast.
Yeah.
East Coast people.
Jersey to Miami. The familiar story.
Oh, yeah. When I grew up, I thought there's no chance that I'm ever going to get to heaven. I knew as a kid that heaven is out of the question for me.
You were doomed.
But I thought the closest thing.
Miami?
Yeah, because you heard about it all the time.
I heard about it, and this is like a stupid thing. It's three trees, but all I see is the Orange Bowl of my youth, and on TV, the end zone to the right. I don't know if that's north, south, east, or west, but the end zone to the right had no stands, and there were palm trees. And they would have a handheld camera on the ground, and they'd take a shot of whatever in the end zone. In the background, you see the palm trees, and they'd be blowing you see the palm fronds blowing in the breeze. I thought, yeah, Miami must be awesome.
Well, and of course, with my contrarian nature, I went to California.
Absolutely. If everybody in Jersey's going to Miami, you're not doing that.
I know.
Go to Florida, you losers. I'm going to the Rose Bowl.
I'll never understand what's wrong with me.
You enjoy the Orange Bowl. I got the Rose Bowl.
I went the other way. I got a zig when everybody zags. So, we'll see what that means. What level of activity, hands-on.
What kind of owners are they?
Yeah, you never know.
What kind of franchise do they run?
Right. I mean, certainly it's always been this way if run correctly, and there's been some blips, the advantages are overwhelming. And that's why they have won all the titles and then been in all the finals and blah, blah, blah that they've been in. It's true. That's why I always felt like if now the responsibility and accountability has been passed to Ryan Smith and his folks, but if they could ever just get one here, it's got to be worth 10 there.
Well, You and I have been to Milwaukee. We've done some shows from Milwaukee because they're there for an NCAA tournament. I feel like I know just a little bit, but I don't know much. But I've always felt that's the kind of city, and Salt Lake goes in that group. And when Milwaukee won, my image of that isn't plays or Giannis doing something. It's that as they were called in the game, there were video that people all around Milwaukee were going to the arena just to be outside when they won it. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't happen other places.
Well, no, I disagree.
Really?
Yeah, we saw New York.
That just blew my mind.
Toronto. It's the summer, so you can get away with it. And the finals. If it was in the winter, it'd be another story.
Don't have a ticket. I just want to be outside the arena when they win it.
I think they do that.
That's awesome.
But Milwaukee still is in the Midwest, obviously, not that far from Chicago, and they've got multiple professional sports. Now, we're getting there, but I still view that as somewhat easier than here. We are really isolated, man. Yeah. 8 hours from Denver, 6 hours from Vegas, 10 hours from California. Nobody talks about North.
It's just 5 hours to Boise.
But nobody tells you.
nobody tells you that.
So what?
Yeah.
Boise, when I first got here, started hearing about Boise, and they told me, it's just a smaller Salt Lake. Mm-hmm. Wow, this is already small. But then I've been up there many times, and it's a fine place. I've got no problem with it. But nobody ever talks about that. It's always...
we're so far from Vegas, and we're so far from Denver
and Phoenix,
right.
and L.A. I mean, that's basically where it's at. So we are viewed as out here nowhere, and that's why I think it would be so awesome if it could ever be accomplished. I still have faith that one day it will be. I have no idea when, but we'll see how that plays out in the next 5 to 10 years if it can be done. I think it can be done. I believe it can be done because my belief is more based on want rather than strictly faith. I still think, if you make good decisions, your time will come. And if you do all the things that you're supposed to do, your time will come. And you can argue, well, the time did come and they didn't get it done. Okay. But now with the new regime and, we're 30 years removed from that, it's crazy to think that that's where we're at coming up on the 30th anniversaries here next year. But for the Lakers, there's no question that it's easier. The built-in advantages, and it's not like the league set that up. It just is. I'm not conspiracy guy that, the referees, we've got to extend this to at least 6 games so everybody can make more money, blah, blah, blah. I do think stars get preferential treatment, and so get stars and you'll get preferential treatment. It is an entertainment league, a product, and nobody wants to go see whoever the stars are foul out. No one wants that. No one. No, they pay too much money. And even if you want your team to win, I don't know that you want to see Kobe Bryant foul out if he comes to Salt Lake. If it's late in the fourth quarter, but you maybe, but not where he's hampered and he can only play 20 minutes because of foul trouble. I don't believe that they do that. If it happens, it happens. So there's no question they have advantages. And now these people here are just obscenely loaded. And what does that mean? There are, what would you call them, restrictions put in place that you can only do so much unless you really want to go crazy and don't care about anything. But even at that, I'm not sure that gives the Lakers just a huge advantage because I don't know that guys want to go someplace. If you can be the top dog somewhere, do you really want to go elsewhere in your prime where you're the 4th or 5th guy?
Doesn't sound good.
Right.
It's not the nature of the sport.
It isn't. Not at all.
You could go somewhere, not that starting pitchers matter the way they used to, but you got to have 5 of them. And now with all the arm injuries, you got to have 7 or 8 of them. And so if you're the 4th starting pitcher, you're going to get the ball as often as the first one. And so just go be an ace. Dominate when you play. It doesn't really matter. I mean, there'll be those discussions. But if you're awesome, you're awesome. And basketball doesn't work that way.
So what does this mean for the competitive balance of the league? I still think that you have to run it effectively. And for the Jazz's sake, if they run it effectively and make shrewd moves, then they will be fine.
There was a time when the Dodgers were bought by Fox. There was a lot of doom and gloom. It's like, wow, they've got all this money behind them, and there's no salary cap, and they're going to dominate, and they're going to be awesome. And it turned out to be one of the worst chapters in Dodger history. Fox didn't run it any better than CBS ran the Yankees when they owned them for a decade, and Steinbrenner came in and rescued them.
Right.
You never really know. You can look on the surface and think this is going to be awesome, but you don't know. Kushner and Iyer put out a statement, and our long-term commitment is to build on that foundation, compete at the highest level, and serve this extraordinary team, its fans, and the city of Los Angeles. Sounds good. There's no way to know what that's going to translate into on the court.
There really isn't.
Deeply honored to become stewards of the Lakers, one of the most iconic sports franchises in the world. So
and they are.
They say all the right things. They shout out Jerry and Jeannie Buss. Immense respect for the leadership and vision of Jerry and Jeannie Buss. So they're saying all the right things, but what's that going to mean when they're hiring for their front office?
And I like that word in the professional sports realm, stewardship. Because it is a community thing, even though an individual or a corporation or a family, whomever, may own it. And I think Larry Miller understood that. And there's overwhelming evidence that he understood that because he put his financial worth on the line because he understood that. You wonder. I guess
they mean it.
Local ownership here means something because we're smaller. Does local ownership there really mean anything? Is it any difference? These guys, the Kushners, they're Jersey people. I knew it had to have been. I just knew
you
it.
just knew it.
I did. I just knew it.
When I dig into this, what am I going to find? You were clicking on it in the break.
Yeah.
You reported it to me.
Right.
Their town, how far is it from your town?
Oh, 5 minutes.
I get your point. I think it does matter, but it doesn't matter the same way. These smaller markets, anything from market, 15 to market 50, smaller markets, it matters. You want the local ownership. I don't think the absentee ownership tends to be as committed. Certainly, they're more likely to move the teams. The local ownership rarely does. Now, having said that, there are always outliers, so there's no guarantees. I mean, the Rams did get moved. They got moved to St. Louis. And the guy who moved them back to L.A. was from Missouri. Go figure. And, take them back to the bigger, more glamorous market.
So what you're saying, in a few years, we can look forward to the Seattle Lakers. Which would actually be a more appropriate nickname.
Well, they got Lake Washington there, right? So
they got lakes all over the place.
It'd be something. They got more water there.
Yeah. I mean, the San Juan Islands. There's lots of water there. But, yeah, I don't know that it really matters. But I like the word stewardship because that's essentially what you are. At the same time, you're going to own it, and so you want to be responsible financially. But there's no way you're going to lose money on this.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Most of these owners seem to own for about a generation. I think, 15 to 20 years is a pretty common time span, although you can find longer ones. And you can find places where they get sold when someone dies, and that just happened with the Blazers. But you can also find multiple teams that have been handed down inside of families. Ironically, that doesn't tend to work very well. There are exceptions, but, the Lions and the Bears and the Giants have all been handed, the Cardinals have all been handed down inside of families.
Yeah, well, the Steelers have.
Yeah. The Steelers are probably one where it's worked better. That's probably the best example there is. Now, the Lakers were handed down and it didn't go great. Chiefs were handed down and it didn't go well for a while, but now obviously it's been going great since they made the last coaching hire, brought in Andy Reid. But they were sitting there on 40 years with no Super Bowl. And like only one or two AFC
the Cowboys
games.
will be. The Yankees have been.
Yankees have been, and you're right, the Cowboys will be. And there are plenty more examples.
And
keep going.
Iger's in his 70s, but Kushner was born in 85.
So he could have a good long run if he chooses.
Right.
He could own the team 30, 40 years. See how it works out.
So he's 41.
Yeah.
Right? If you were born in 85, you're 41, right?
So if he owns his team at 71, 81, 30 or 40-year run is a very...
Oh, yeah.
Although that's what Jerry Jones is turning in with the Cowboys.
Uh-huh.
He's past 35 years now. He's not to 40 yet, but he's closing in on it.
Yeah. But he's
something else.
I think
he's something else. You're searching for a word.
I want my owners to be visible, but I don't want them to be dominantly visible.
In the way. And he's in the way. He's injected himself too much into the football side.
But he has, and I get they have the right to, but it seems like he's caught up in the fame of it.
Yes.
Not just the personnel decisions, the fame of owning the arguably the most glamorous franchise in the NFL, which is the most glamorous sport.
He wants to hear his voice
Yeah.
on a weekly and sometimes even daily basis.
Right.
And that's too much.
Right.
Be the owner and come out in front occasionally in big moments. Maybe you set a thing where it's once or twice a year.
I like them to be involved.
Yeah.
But not running to the cameras
I think
because I am swallowed up in this fame. Back that down a little bit. Back off that a little bit.
I would be afraid if they weren't involved. That would bother me. Like, you need to be involved. It needs to be guidance, goal setting, investment, big decisions, and then you hire the people and then you step away. Yeah, you're in the room for the draft, absolutely. And you're consulted, but you're not vetoing stuff and determining daily and weekly decisions. No, that's why you hired people. Get out of their way.
And you're just swallowed up in the fame of it, and that sort of bothers me. I get so tired of watching him, the shots in the box. What makes him so special?
Well, he's a lightning rod, and people love him or hate him, so that's why the TV networks do it.
But I don't need to see him watching a game. What is he going to do?
I get it. Now, I don't think, we see a lot of Robert Kraft, and he's a lightning rod, but I don't think he gets in the way in New England. Help make main decisions, set goals, guidance, but then get out of the way and let football people handle things week to week and day to day. But we see a lot of him. I mean, pictures of him, Bob Kraft's walking down the sideline before the game. Yeah, when he owns the team in the stadium, he gets to walk around.
Yeah.
But he's not in the way. He hasn't been. And when he got it wrong, he pivoted, and now it looks like we're in a much better place. They're back in the Super Bowl. But he had to step in with the guidance when everything blows up in the offseason and coaches apparently had an affair with a reporter and there's all kinds of stuff. Well, you got to step back in and make sure the train gets back on the tracks. We'll see how things work for the Patriots this year. But the Lakers are sold. $12.5 billion. Josh Kushner, Bob Iger. What are they going to do? Find out. And now who gets the team in Vegas? LeBron said he was out on that. Is he back in now? Is there another group? How's that going to impact expansion? What'd you say?
The Walton family. Apparently they are the front runners. So we're talking
Bill Walton?
Not that Walton.
Not that Walton.
The Waltons who own Walmart.
The Walmart Waltons, not the San Diego Waltons.
Because then Luke would be the coach.
Yeah.
So they'll own the Broncos. They'll be scattered all over.
But they have like 6 kids or something like that in the Walton family.
So it's a different.
I don't know
Walton.
which of the Waltons this is. It could be the Walton Penners that obviously own the Broncos that could be in the mix, but apparently it says the Walton family is the odds-on favorite.
All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Darnell Dickson at the top of the hour, Daily Herald. We'll talk Cougar football with him. Stay with us.
They've been doing it for a while.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
I think the Jazz want to make the playoffs this year, and they really have no motivation for not making the playoffs this year because their draft pick goes to the Memphis Grizzlies in the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. How motivated are the Jazz actually going to feel to maximize the win total of this roster using all the assets available to them to get there? My guess is it's actually not as high as fans would think because they don't have to do anything exactly right.
The truth is they are dedicated to it. But that doesn't mean they have to do anything about it right now.
Sure.
But no, not one person in that building, if you went up to them and said, hey, is the Bosnian Beak your answer at center? Not one of them is going to say yes.
Right. Or Jackson Hayes.
Or any of that. No, they're not.
Yeah.
So, yes, they do need to address the problem, for sure. Do they need to address it right now?
I don't think so.
Absolutely not. No, why would they?
Catch Jake and Ben, afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The Lakers have been sold. What is next? Isn't that the beauty of this job? You just really don't know.
Our job you're talking about?
Yeah, you don't know if anything's going to happen the rest of the week.
Oh yeah, things change constantly. It's never stagnant. And if off the field stuff doesn't happen, then you've got on the field stuff. You know, this Kalani choosing to say what he said has been a blessing. Thank you, Kalani, because it has carried stuff for us, and it's important stuff too. It's not just nonsense. It's not just talk to talk. It is important as far as a premier entity that we cover inside out, upside down, all that stuff. But yeah, and who knows? That's it. I said, like with Brian Santiago, he knows full well that if next week is quiet, the week after is going to be a storm. It just seems like it is one thing after another, man. And you never rest because it's just nonstop. And that's the world of sports. And there'll be something else that'll come around. Who knows?
This is total speculation, and it's going to lead to it until people dig into it and find out what the truth is. And I am sure people in L.A. and national people are digging into this right now, but I can't help but wonder, PK, I might be connecting dots that aren't there. But I look at this Lakers sale and think, how does that impact the baseball labor negotiations? I think people will connect the dots, and the answer will be a little bit at most, although they'll want to connect the dots and say a lot. I don't think I can sign off on a lot. Not off what I know right now, which is very little. But the guy selling the Lakers, Walter, owns the Dodgers. And he's the guy who spent $1 gazillion now and with these payments that stretch out decades into the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that has been the talking point of the owners. Well, we just got to have a salary cap because the Dodgers are winning everything. And I told you at the start, I don't think that's it. I think it's about franchise valuations. They're escalating so fast. I mean, the Lakers were sold for $10 billion. It was approved in October. Walter hasn't run the club for a full year yet, and he's already flipped it for $12.5 billion. But he's also under federal investigation for alleged tax fraud by other companies tied to the billionaire. So does he need the money for this? What is the motivation here? Is he going to have to sell the Dodgers? And if so, how will they be run? And will that whole argument of the Dodgers go up in smoke? I don't know that it'll happen. I don't know that it would happen quickly enough. But I'm sure the people are digging into this, seeing if this sale is tied to that investigation and what's going on in that investigation and how might he be leveraged and who might he owe money and why does he need $2.5 billion?
Well, I think it's a logical connection, at least for an investigation or see what's up. What's going on here? Why? That's pretty quick that you've had this team and then you flip it so quickly. Normally you don't see that. This is not a starter house where you see real estate people do that.
Flip it in a year.
Yeah, that they're looking to do. Get in there, make the profit, flip it, and away you go. And we know that that's the way that things work in that industry. I don't see that here. So what are the reasons? And maybe there's something tied into it. I have no idea as far as that goes. Is there something relative to that? Or did they just think, hey, we need to downsize in a sense, and somebody's going to pay us $2 million more than we bought it for? All in favor? Aye.
25% profit on a $10 billion investment.
In such a short time.
Yeah, it went to $12.5 billion a year, which actually in a way may drive the owners for baseball even more. It's like, well, let's just get to the point. It really isn't about the Dodgers winning a lot of division titles and going to a lot of World Series. It's really about how come our franchises aren't escalating in value the way theirs are. Because the Lakers just went from $10 billion to $12.5 billion in a little less than a year.
Yeah, but not everybody's the Lakers.
True story. But everybody's value is going up, and baseball just doesn't see their numbers going up as quickly as other leagues.
Well, to me, that's one of the reasons for expansion then, because you'll get an influx of cash because it costs to buy in.
Basketball's expanding.
So
baseball's expanding. Hockey, actually, I just saw a story. Apparently, Houston and Austin are competing for team number 33 in Texas. Saw that story in the last couple days. There's all sorts of rumors and speculation. They'll go try Atlanta a third time and get it right this time. You can roll your eyes, but baseball tried Washington 3 times, and finally Washington, D.C., it looks like the Nationals have gotten it right the third time there. They lost the Senators. They put another team in there, and One moved to Minnesota, and the second one moved to Texas.
Yeah. It does look like they're stable right now. Yeah. And they did win a World Series a few years back.
Yep. All right, DJ and PK will keep you updated. We'll see what happens with the Lakers. Crazy story this morning. Sold for $12.5 billion. When we come back, Darnell Dickson, the Daily Herald, BYU football next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Darnell Dickson, the Daily Herald. Darnell, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, appreciate it. I thought I should probably join just because PK's been kind of stalking me a little bit. So.
PK's been stalking you?
No. Here's the story, real quick. So in Portland last year, after BYU's NCAA tournament loss, I'm walking back to my hotel, and it's not in a very great section of town, so I'm kind of hoofing it pretty good. And behind me, I hear, "Hey, you got $5?" And I'm like, "No," and I turn around and it's Pat.
I remember that. It was not in a great part of town.
It was not.
So, I mean, I was a little low on cash. What can I say?
Well, your hotel was nicer than mine. I know that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You did veer off. I remember that.
You stay at the Marriott down by the river, PK? I stayed in that one time. That was nice.
It was walkable to the Moda Center.
Yeah. Oh, no, this one would have been on the other side of the river from the Moda Center.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have walked the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, no, we walked there.
Well, you know the story of the day. I mean, sure, there's a lot of stories, Darnell. High school football is about to kick off again. We can go through a million stories, but it's BYU, it's Kalani Sitake, it's resources. What was he promised in December? How much, if any of that, has he been given? What are we doing here? You must have been asked about this 50,000 times. What's the stock answer? What's your go-to? What's your elevator speech?
Well, here's what I keep thinking about is back, 4 or 5 years ago when BYU was considering joining the Big 12, the guys in Salt Lake, the Board of Trustees, had to approve this. And I keep thinking in my mind, did somebody sit down with them and say, do you realize what you're committing to? Like, do you understand what commitment this is going to take financially and in all other ways to have the resources to compete at this level? Do you understand that, there's no more cheap hotels. There's no more telling an assistant coach, we're not paying you as much as everybody else, but you're working at the Lord's school. That stuff kind of has to end, because if you want to compete, you're going to have to make that commitment. And then, a couple years later, all of a sudden there's NIL jumping into the picture, and then you've got to start paying the players. So that's kind of my first thought is always, did the brethren really understand what it was they were committing to 5 years ago when they went to join the Big 12? And now we're seeing some of the frustration come out from Kalani, and they're hiring new people for the administration in athletics. What Mark Hill will do. Is he going to be in charge of football? What does that mean for Travis Hansen, who's kind of been overseeing a little bit of that? We hear Brian Santiago talking about, what's his role going to be? Because you think about this, and this is with every athletic department. Football and basketball are the main sports, but there's also another, 700 other athletes that are competing in other sports that you're trying to support. And so who handles what? And does Kalani get the resources that he needs after making that little speech from a few weeks ago? So, yeah, it's an interesting time. And, we don't really have an off season anymore because it's more and more like the NFL and the NBA where there's stuff always going on in the off season.
Did you think that Kalani, did it just come up, or do you think that it was something that he was ready to say for political purposes to get the thing going to where he gets what he's wanted or what he wants and what has been promised?
I think that this was the first time that he sort of, took this to a forum that everybody could see. But this wasn't the first time he's brought this up. I'm sure he's had many discussions with Brian Santiago and those in the athletic department about this sort of thing. This is what we need. It's doable. Let's take care of it. And it just kind of boiled over. He's talking to a former player, and Ben Criddle maybe opened up a little more than he would with somebody else, who knows. But, again, this isn't the first time that this has been something that has been on his mind. And so I think he just kind of felt like, I'm just going to say what I have to say. He's in a position where he's kind of got the upper hand, I think, in this where he's beloved and everyone thinks he's the right guy for the job. And BYU said, yeah, we're going to pony up because we don't want you going to Penn State. We want you staying here. And if they made promises they haven't kept yet, he's going to say so. and he's comfortable in that, knowing that if things don't work out here, he's got different places he can go coach because he's earned that reputation.
To your earlier point, I've been under the impression that, led by Tom Homo, several people put together, but I think mostly Tom had to lead it because of his role, that they did put together here's the future. Here's where college sports is definitely going. Now, it could go with us all in, it could go with us partway in, it could go with us out. And here's what that looks like. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and I certainly haven't seen any of the presentations, and I'm not privy to conversations, but I was pretty sure that happened. And I think Tom's smart and thoughtful, so I get how he could really lay things out and make a compelling case for, this is my vision of the future, and it can look at these ways. Which one do you want to pick? And that they picked the Big 12 one, right? And it comes with all the things you talk about and the evolution since then. And I think what you get are deeply committed people, which if you like them, you'll say, they have the courage of their convictions. If you don't like them, they're stubborn. I don't know that it's that different. It's just, how fond are you of the person you're speaking of? So if right now we have a football coach and an AD who are both stubborn or have the courage of their convictions, depending on how much you like each one of them, if we play this out, Kalani doesn't get what he wants, but he does have some leverage, and he has to go somewhere else. And I don't know, USC, Oklahoma, Texas, whoever opens up, Ohio State, I don't know, whatever, but somebody like Penn State who's got resources comes at him and says, hey, you've got all these double-digit win seasons, you're our guy, and then he goes. And there are people who will tell you this, the immediate pivot is to Jay Hill, who is a head coach. You'd think he'd take that over defensive coordinator because most coordinators have. But then he would come in, the issues wouldn't change, and he'd be the second person saying the same thing. Because I think he'd say what Kalani would say. I think he would want what Kalani would want. And then, boy, you don't want to be the person who, as AD, is constantly in conflict, because suddenly then you're the problem. So if you play all that out and you realize that, why wouldn't you just go ahead and make some adjustments now and fund football now?
Yeah, and we're looking at this in real time, and the way that things have changed in college sports over the last 5 years is just stunning to me. The way it has become more and more like professional sports, and we're not done. I mean, there are certainly a lot of things on the horizon, and in terms of realignment, the TV deal, and how much are they going to try to get this through Congress to save college sports and all that kind of thing. So for me, I can't wait for the season to start, because I'm tired of talking about this other stuff. I want to see some real football and see BYU compete. And they've got a good team this year. So, we can talk about all this stuff in the off season, and it's just a little tiresome to me, because things change so quickly. And next year we'll be talking about other things that we hadn't even imagined yet.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we'll look forward to that when it happens. So I wrote a piece on KSL.com, and I tried to just summarize all the stuff that's been going on from Kalani's perspective. And you've known me for several decades. I want to read you a sentence and see with you if you agree with one of the responses as I just opened it up. This article is a complete hack job, sour grapes of a biased Ute fan who sees the writing on the wall. By every metric, BYU is pulling ahead of their rival. What would you respond to that?
My response to that is that on an even playing field, BYU is doing really well, and Utah's in transition. I mean, when Utah joined the Pac-12, they had some very distinct advantages that they were able to win a lot of games against BYU, 9 straight, as it were, in the series. And they were close games, a lot of them. BYU couldn't quite make it over the top in a few of them. But now that they are sort of on even playing field, they're both in a power conference, BYU's excelling. And BYU, Kalani said this the other day. He said, we've been expected to do less with more. And that's always kind of been the case. I did a story, this is probably 7 or 8 years ago, but talking to some of the BYU coaches about their recruiting and how they face that on the road. You've got other schools that are sending guys on private jets, and you got BYU guys that are sleeping in airports, and that kind of thing. And so they were doing a lot with what they had, and they always have been very. And when you look at how many universities, athletic departments around the country are actually making money and in the black. BYU is one of the few. So they do a good job with what they have. Now they're trying to increase all of that. And there's obviously some fiefdoms on campus where people want to have control of certain things. And now they've added Mark Hill to the group. What is his role? Is he going to be liaison between Kalani and Brian? I think BYU's done really well with and I saw something the other day that somebody had posted about how BYU's spending and their financials are pretty comparable with most of the teams in the Big 12, but certainly pale by comparison to teams in the Big 10 and then the SEC. So there's work to do with this program to get them to the point where they feel like they can compete at that level, and at least financially. And they've done a good job with it. So I think that both of these schools, both BYU and Utah, are looking at the future and trying to figure out where they fit in this new kind of landscape of college sports.
And it does bother me as a Ute fan when we lose to the Cougars.
Yeah, we know that, Pat. You're just that kind of guy.
He is entertaining himself at a very high level right now.
I know. He gets off on making sure everyone knows that he's a Ute fan, wears red.
Yeah. It's in my blood.
Do you think that this BYU club is set up to be the kind of team that would give Kalani a lot of leverage and when November and December roll around? The way we saw last year, that team was set up and did enough that it gave him a lot of leverage when November and December rolled around.
Yeah, I've been around a long time, and I keep thinking about BYU and the WAC and the Mountain West Conference and Independent, and knowing every year that if you lost one game, you were out of the national spotlight. Even if you'd gone 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, if you had a big win at the beginning of the season, if you lost one game, that was pretty much it for you. And so BYU fans were pretty excited when they joined the Big 12 because now they're in a power conference and things are different. They have more opportunities. And as it turns out, they really only gained one loss in that scenario because they can have one loss, but they can't have two because the last 2 years they've had two losses and haven't made the college football playoffs. So that's kind of what I think about this program. They have kind of controlled their own destiny the last 2 years and had slip-ups. I mean, lost to Kansas on a weird punt fumble. Last year they had two games against Texas Tech and didn't show off well. If they could have played closer and lost those two or even won one of them, they probably would have been in the college football playoff. So there are things that they can control, and this year's team has some good opportunities. They host Notre Dame in October, and Notre Dame's a top 3 or 4 team according to whatever polls you want to look at. That gives them an opportunity at home to get a really big win and put themselves in position at the end of the year to not be ignored by the College Football Playoff Committee. You want to take it out of their hands. And there's only a couple of ways to do that. One is to win every game, and the other way is to win the conference championship and get that automatic bid to the playoffs. So they know what they have to do, and I feel like they put themselves in a position with those two setup years that they've had 11 and 12 wins, that if they do the same thing this year, they should get a little bit more consideration. But this is college football. You've got to win the right games, and you have to not lose the wrong games.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to for BYU as far as what happens this year, and what we'll see in those big games that they have. A lot of talk on they lost a bunch of receivers. But I've been hearing this stuff about this Glasgow kid who's just a freshman. And I suppose that receiver, if you just run the routes and learn the offense, you can play as a freshman. What do you think?
Yeah, the coaches and players are all saying the right things about the new guys that are stepping into those roles. And, I because of what I do, the social media algorithm really puts a lot of BYU highlights in front of me when I'm on the computer. And so, I'm watching last year's games, and I'm seeing all the plays that Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston and Carson Ryan made. Those three guys, not just, picking up big third downs and chunk plays and touchdowns. They just did it all. And so are there three guys in that receiver/tight end group that can duplicate that? Maybe not, but maybe they've got a little more depth. I know, the There's a lot of good talent there. Kalani Sitake said it's probably as talented and as skilled a group as he's ever coached. But none of them really have proven themselves yet. So that's important. But also what has to happen here is you've got a quarterback coming back for his second year after a freshman year that was really good. You've got the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year coming back, and L.J. Martin. You can rely on the run game and set some things up. So they're pretty optimistic that those new guys, including Legend Glasgow, can make plays. And, they've got 2 good tight ends they brought in from power conference teams. And so we'll see. I mean, nothing really is proven until they get out there and do it on the field. But the coaches and players are all saying that they're definitely capable. And if they are, that's a really good offense. And I think defensively they're going to be pretty good, even though they have a new defensive coordinator. It's somebody that understands, Caleb Pinga understands what they've been doing. And he said the other day, it's, our 4th year running this system. I think our guys know how to get it done.
Yeah.
Texas Tech doesn't play Utah or BYU. Should we all just pencil them into the Big 12 title game? I mean, they're 11-1 and 12-0 or 12-0 at this point. Or quarterback's going to be a major problem. Sports has surprises. Brace yourself.
Well, the only thing I know about Will Hammond is that he went into Salt Lake and came into the game in the middle of the game and helped beat Utah, and that was pretty impressive to me. So he's a pretty talented quarterback. If he's healthy enough to play, I know he's coming off an injury. Certainly, that could be the only thing that really holds Texas Tech back is quarterback play, but their defense will be so good that he might not be asked to do a whole lot in a lot of those games. So, they do have Houston, which is a program on the rise in the Big 12, but I think Texas Tech is definitely the favorite to get there again. And, they're embracing that role as the most hated team in America. I guess BYU's lost that title, apparently, to the Red Raiders. But I think there's some good teams in this conference that might be able to give them a couple of games. But looking at the stats and looking at on paper, they look like the team to beat for sure.
Darnell, we'll leave it right there for now unless there's something you want to tell us about high school football, either a team or an individual recruit, anything. It's kicking off.
Yeah, it is kicking off. We have down here in Utah Valley, we have like 8 new coaches, which is kind of interesting. And I don't know that we've got a state champion down here, but it's always fun to cover, and it looks like we'll be able to see a lot of games. I don't know what your involvement's going to be, DJ, but always like when I see you on the sidelines, and maybe you can get Kinahan out to a high school game. He probably hasn't been out to one in like 20 years, right?
I used to go when my wife was teaching, but if you want to know what DJ is to high school football going forward, just think of Keith Jackson to college football.
The Keith Jackson of Utah high school football. Okay,
yep,
I got it.
It's about a new day is about to begin.
I'm going to have to get super folksy. Oh, nene, fumbo! I just read a thing that he was going to be forced out, and then ABC had management change, and he went for 7 more years. And I didn't know that little bit of drama at the end of his career. Yeah, interesting.
Yep. He was the voice of our youth.
That's
watching the
true
games
story.
on Saturday afternoons.
Yep. Well, Darnell, we will see you at a high school game somewhere. And thanks for coming on and joining us here on the show. We appreciate it.
Sounds good. You guys have a great day.
All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. When we come back, everything you missed in this show, which means if you're just joining us, we'll tell you about the Lakers being sold again for yet another massive pile of money. It's even bigger. That's next. Stay with us.
Welcome to This is Jay Scott and Ben Anderson.
I mean, honestly, this is uncharted territory for Utah. Other than Witt like to change his offensive coordinator every 45 minutes, we have not seen a switch at head coach for Utah, hardly ever. I mean, they are the Pittsburgh Steelers of college football. Kind of had a couple of coaches, and they've all stepped in and been very successful.
I think Morgan probably will try and find the sweet spot in being a little bit more aggressive. If he tries to go full Mike Leach on it, Utah's going to learn some painful lessons. But
there's more room for error than Witt thought.
There is, and I think
in a good way.
And we saw that in the bowl game. Mm-hmm. Deep down, Witt is a soccer coach, and I don't think that Morgan is a soccer coach. And when I say that, I mean like, oh, you've got a 1-goal-to-none lead. Well, let's sit on that thing. Yep. Let's anchor it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Love that strategy.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time to get you up to speed on everything we've had during the show this morning. Brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 1-855-TRAJAN1 or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. And the big story of the morning, the Lakers have been sold. $12.5 billion. How's inflation? 25% increase in the sales price since the last sale was approved in October. Jarring, PK. Shocking. And yet here we are. Josh Kushner, Bob Iger paying $12.5 billion, buying it from Mark Walter, who owns the Lakers and the Dodgers. What does this mean for the Dodgers, if anything? Don't know. Is this tied to the federal investigation into Walter? Did he fail to disclose some private credit holdings? He's also being investigated by the SEC in addition to a prosecutor in Manhattan. There's multiple investigations going. Does he need to pump some money into his other businesses? What's going on? What does this mean for the Lakers? What, if anything, does it mean for the Dodgers? A lot of questions, not a lot of answers right now, but an interesting morning for sure.
60 years ago, Jack Kent Cooke bought the Lakers for $5 million.
Now, veterans on a minimum want more than that.
And then you're not getting a luxury suite for that number.
He sold it to, obviously, Jerry Buss, I think, for like 67. So that was a decent profit.
67 million then to, and then to 10 billion and now to 12.5 billion.
Right. Yeah. Well, it leads you to believe that something's going on there with this loan spiel and the government investigating and all that stuff. But I mean, that's his deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's separate from the Lakers now, right?
In his 10.5 months, they decided to make a move and get rid of LeBron and have him go find a gig somewhere else. And he went to Philly, and they traded for Walker Kessler and gave the Jazz multiple draft picks and swaps. There's your major decisions over 10 months.
Yeah, and there's still some talk about maybe some multi-team deal to get Kuminga. It doesn't look like they have enough to win it all. I mean, they got Luka, and him being healthy makes a significant difference. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had injuries all over the place last year. So just getting him healthy. And they also re-signed Reeves, too. That was a big move. Gave him the max, didn't they?
They did. Committed to him for sure.
Yeah. But then now it's on the new ownership, and Walter will do what he does, and the government will do what they do there, and we'll see how that affects him and then the Dodgers. But as far as the Lakers go, new management, and what does that always mean? Because there's always an unknown. Any form of change is an unknown. Especially, I want to say if it's been a certain way for a long time, but now for ownership, it hasn't really been. It's only been a cup of coffee, basically. This is unheard of. I can't think of anything that's relatable.
I can't think of a team being sold this close together, and certainly a marquee club that's a pillar of the league. I mean, you'd like to think they're all the same, and no, they're not. I mean, the Dodgers and Yankees, the Cowboys and Lakers, there's certain teams just have more cachet.
Well, the league and its people in it all make money when the Lakers are better.
And those are the clubs that have more cachet. The Lakers can drive it, the Yankees can drive it, the Cowboys can drive it.
I always thought, for the Jazz's perspective, if you can't win the title, or if you can't get to the NBA final, have the Lakers get there.
It would be more satisfying if you're going to win a final if you did it by beating the Lakers on the way.
Sure, but
you want them to be
just
good.
From a business standpoint.
If it can't be you, then have it be them.
Yes, because they're going to make you money.
Rub the fingers together, show me the money.
Right, because they are a draw. We know the ones that are, and in the NBA, they're right there with anybody. I don't think they don't take a back seat to anybody. But it doesn't always happen that way, and hasn't happened for a good while now. And I don't see it changing. Maybe they can make a couple of moves. It's not like they're that far away, though. I mean, they're not. You're always building, but they're not in a total rebuild.
All right, we'll find out what that means. It's still got to be approved. That process will play out over weeks and months. We'll hear more about this, and I'm sure there's a lot of people already digging into this. What's going on? Walter owns other stuff, but apparently he's only selling the Lakers. I mean, he owns the Dodgers, he owns the Sparks, he owns Chelsea in the Premier League, he owns the Professional Women's Hockey League, and several auto racing teams. So he is deep into sports, but right now it appears that this is only the Lakers that are being sold here.
Right.
The other NBA news, Warriors GM Mike Dunleavy said the franchise is committed to ensuring that Steph Curry will retire as a Warrior. He's eligible to extend his contract with the team later this month for 2 years, $136 million, which would give him 20 seasons with the franchise. And that would probably be 2 more years in the middle to bottom of the Western Conference.
I hope they do the same thing with Draymond Green.
Keep the band together.
Let it play out until it's done.
Hold on to your 8th, 10th, 12th, 14th in the West, depending on how healthy Curry is, because he started to miss games in bunches here.
Well, we saw the Jazz had slipped. We saw the
Lakers,
the Mavericks, the Lakers with Kobe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let it play out that way.
Yeah,
great.
Nowitzki in that book with the Mavs, you're right.
I'm all for it from the Jazz perspective.
The Spurs a little bit with Duncan. They also won later with Duncan. But they still had to go through a multi-year rebuild.
Yeah.
He didn't hang on as long and didn't go as far down as the Lakers did. They missed the playoffs for a long time.
Right.
The football news right now is mostly injury updates. Puka, who no longer, he's one word, right? One name now?
We all know who we mean.
How many people in sports? Ali. Gretzky. But can you do the first name? The last name's something, but the first name.
Oh, I think that
LeBron.
For Gretzky, it's the nickname.
The great one?
Yeah.
Magic.
Right. If you can get a nickname, Dr. J.
Larry Legend is 2, but I mean, we know who we're talking about. Yeah, Dr. J. Nice.
I think if you just go Larry, and no offense to Kristoviak.
Famous Larrys, and go.
That when you say Larry, certainly in a certain part of the country, when you say Larry, there's just the incomparable. They've had great ones in that franchise, but I think he's the greatest.
Puka, groin soreness, left practice early yesterday. Now, there are reports the NFL might suspend him for the season opener against the Niners in Australia. So, leave him in L.A. if that's true, and then he won't be suffering for all the jet lag.
Him just to keep an eye on him.
I
don't want to be 10,000 miles away. He hasn't proven that he can handle that yet, and hopefully he does. It's been an eventful offseason that you don't want.
Myles Garrett missed the Rams during practice with Green Bay, soreness in his knee. He says he's feeling about 85%, at least that's what he's told his coaches, the club. So they want to be smart with the defending Defensive Player of the Year. No reason to mess with Myles Garrett's knee in August.
No.
49ers coach Kyle Shanahan says star defensive end Nick Bosa is dealing with tendonitis in a surgically reconstructed knee. He's considered a week-to-week. He was absent from practice this week.
Well, as I said earlier, we need to make Bosa healthy again.
The Niners, older. We're going to be reading injury news about them all year. Still good. I just don't think they're great and don't think they're on that top tier.
Well, they got that substation over there that's just ruining guys left and right.
Yes, they've investigated that, and that isn't it. We've all been to Google Maps. We've all been to Google Maps to see how close that thing is.
Mike Evans showed up and got a hamstring injury the first day of practice. Don't tell me there's not something going on.
Well, we do know in a much more serious thing that I think the Philadelphia media had uncovered something with the chemicals in the turf for the Phillies when they played in those old crummy ballparks.
Veterans Stadium with the artificial turf.
And they had several guys die of brain cancer in their 50s. Darren Dalton, Tim McGraw's father, Tug, were two of the prominent ones. But there's multiple others. That's shocking.
Shocking, tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all kinds of...
I've been in that stadium.
Yeah. That was the old school turf that was more like indoor-outdoor carpeting that felt like it was super glued to the cement or the asphalt underneath it.
Yeah, if you couldn't catch a ball in the outfield, you had to make sure you backed up 20 yards so it didn't bounce over your head.
Kangaroo hop, yeah. And I did a story when Rice Stadium, when they tore out the artificial turf there and put in grass, I think it was mid-'90s in there, and they laid down drainage and everything. It was a huge, massive construction project. And watching them tear the turf out, there was that mat, that cushion, which had been all beaten down. I mean, it wasn't paper thin, but it wasn't half an inch. It might not even been it may have been about a quarter inch. And then it was asphalt underneath it. It was shocking to see. I mean, you'd heard that, but to see it, you think, wow, these guys were really playing in a parking lot in that era.
But there was no other situation that I'm aware of people dying by playing on the turf.
Right, and I thought all the turf was didn't St. Louis or Cincinnati have it? San Francisco was turf for a while. Houston and the Astrodome. Yeah, Pittsburgh, you're right.
It was disgusting.
Right. But there was something in Philly. That's like a cancer cluster type scenario.
It's too weird. It can't be a coincidence.
Your guy Sam Levitt left ASU for LSU. Says he's fully recovered from his Liz Frank injury that ended the 2025 season. He did make a stir by saying, somewhat facetiously, I'm from Oregon, so Louisiana kind of felt almost fake to me in a way. I didn't think it was a real place, but after being out here, I just love the trees, and I've always wanted to be in the South. The humidity obviously was something I had to get used to, but I love it now.
You always wanted to be where they're going to pay you the most money. You wanted to be in the South. You would have gone, you went to Michigan State, and if Penn State had paid you come on, just say it. You could have been a legend over there.
But you'll take being the highest paid over here.
Yeah. Say it. I mean, I'll give you credit. For as phony as you are, you have said the only reason why you live in Utah is...
Yuck. Paycheck is why I live in Utah. There we go.
I mean, it's right. You got to the essence. It has nothing to do with the love of the people like me.
You saved a school $600,000?
$600,000.
Wow.
I wanted to come to Utah to learn about this peculiar people that I've heard about. And I came here and I thought, they're peculiar, sure, but in a loving way. My neighbors, my friends, I embrace them.
You had to be kidnapped and locked in a car for 10 hours and driven around L.A. like a hostage before you agreed to take the job.
And now we commune.
Yuck, am I right?
No.
Yuck, am I right?
We commune one with another.
It was a hostage situation
and we're on
for
the
PK.
same wavelength as patriotic Americans usually are.
Locked in a car.
Too long. I don't know what to tell you.
Right. Yeah. And now, the paycheck, well, you've stockpiled so many of them. Now you're saying you've lived in Utah too long.
That was because my grammar was atrocious and you called me out on the air.
But you said I lived in Utah. Now you're blaming them on being uneducated hicks. Now we know why they voted the way they did. I see what you're saying. Jeez, can you insult them even more?
Utah grammar.
Well, I embrace it.
Washing machine.
I haven't learned enough. I may learn some more today.
You're hard-headed. You'll learn nothing.
Was it faith promoting when you read it?
That's a good one. That one's underrated. You don't play that enough. Hit it one more time, Yuck.
Was it faith promoting when you read it?
Of course, that was the BOM you're talking about.
Was it faith promoting when you read it? Things you'll only hear on Utah Sports Talk Radio, Boston Sports Talk Radio, Dallas Sports Talk Radio, Seattle Sports Talk Radio. You're not getting that.
By me.
No, I'm too into myself to be annoyed by other people. That's true. All the honesty's in the drops. Classic. Anything else you want to tell the people? Oh, you decided that the streak, 113 games, that's legit. That's a tough play. Can't assume the out is second base. Because originally it was scored as an error, and the record streak was coming to a stop. And, can we have that?
A backflip to a defender on the move.
Yes. Who was committed to the ball and was on the wrong side of second base. Again, to circle back when he decided to be committed to the bag.
And he camouflaged and shielded you from the ball.
Yeah.
And it was completely up the middle.
Jacob Wilson, shortstop for the A's, 113 straight games now without an error.
Yeah.
It was an awkward-looking
and
play.
It's the A's, man. We need good things to happen to the A's. I mean, he's a good player. Went to Grand Canyon because his father was coaching there. I will say, though, he's no Freddie Patek.
Freddie Patek. Why Freddie Patek? Other than it's a fun name to say.
Because he's shortstop.
And it's Royals, right?
Yeah. Freddie Patek.
80s? 90s. 80s. Freddie Patek. PK, you complete me.
I have been known as the great completer.
All right, DJ and PK, anything else you want to tell the people we've talked about this morning? We had Darnell Dickson on and Matt Brown on to talk about BYU and Kalani Sitake and the AD and Cougar Board statements. Matt was surprised at Cougar Board 25 years later was the place to go for updates on BYU football.
Well, I've been going there hourly now.
How old is Cougar Board, Yak? Established?
Well, how old's the internet?
I would assume it's at least 25.
Cougar Board was a thing in the late 90s. I didn't know if it went back.
Well, that means it's more than 25
Well,
then.
then why would they change?
Yeah.
I just don't know when it started.
98,
95?
So whenever the internet started, and all the programs have them, and it can be a cesspool. But I mean, it's you want that, not a cesspool, but you want fans to interact with one another because that means they're passionate.
Per the Google machine, it started in late 1999.
Okay. As BYUboard.com. All right. Ben Peterson's.
Who's Ben Peterson?
He's the guy who created BYUboard.com. That's his contribution to society right there. Bang! Cougar Board.
So then it morphed into something else?
October 2003, it became Cougar Board.
Ben Peterson, brother of former BYU quarterback Charlie Peterson.
Aha! All right, DJ and PK, when we come back, your feedback next. Stay with us.
And Wang.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is time for your feedback. What do you have to say about today's show? Question of the morning, how long do you think Kalani Sitake stays at BYU? True Blue BYU 1984 for as long as he wants. Okay, but how long does he want?
I know, but what does
how long does he want? That doesn't answer the question.
Leaves it very open-ended there.
Puts a condition on it, but doesn't answer it. Brandon, he's going to be there a long time. He could have left. He decided not to. He's truly happy there. I understand the undelivered promises, but it'll work out, and he stays.
Great. Very well could be true.
You said you were talking to people. There were texts, there were emails, and all that. You have your famous Kinahan gut instinct for how this is going to work. Does it get bumpier before it gets better? Is this Splitsville? You got it, or you got no feel for it?
Well, I can't have a feel if it's Splitsville, as you say, because I don't know what offers are going to come.
Mm-hmm.
This is not college football hiring season. Let's check back in 4 to 5 to 6 months when that is at that point, and we know when that so-called season arrives. This isn't it. I mean, I think that there's no question he turned up the heat on these folks who promised him stuff, and he's expected to be delivered. And he did it in such a brilliant manner, low-key, not raising his voice, blah, 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 blah. He can get angry. I've seen him angry. I've seen him do some stuff that, whoa, and he's told me about it, and I've told you stuff, so it's there. He can be tough, and that's what I led my story with on KSL.com. You know, when they had that crummy season, there was a lot of, he's too nice of a guy, and I was just talking with him at the indoor facility. I think it was on the pitcher day, and he said, yeah, people don't think I can get tough. They don't think I can get mad. Just try me, and he used a couple other words. So he can do all that. But I like the way he approached this. And my thought is that it will get ironed out. But I just wonder, I've got Whittingham in my other ear saying, it's going up 30, 40, 50% every year. You're going to have a $50 million roster. If the leadership of the Latter-day Saint Church, in conjunction with BYU, just says, hey, we're tapping out here.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing what we think is appropriate. We can't keep responding to other people all the time, because once you go down that road, it never ends. And they have been known, as Darnell Dickson said, come work at the Lord's University. And, he was making that point that they don't pay top dollar. Lavelle Edwards used to joke about it and all that stuff. Well, do they continue to do it? Because if you're going to be all in, schools XYZ are going to keep raising the ante. And do you really want to go down that road? Where are you going to be in 5 and 10 years? $100 million roster?
I don't know how to answer that. I saw a great tweet, and this was about another topic. It was about college football, but it wasn't about BYU. It was something else. And a guy was saying, if you had sat with the power brokers 10 years ago and said, and 10 years ago, we were in the old school rules, and said, 10 years from now, quarterbacks will all make $1 million, the reaction in that room would have been astounding. And yet, here we are. There's lots of $1 million quarterbacks running around.
I think that's minimally.
Yeah. That's why I say there's a lot, because you don't have to be one of the elite schools to be $1 million quarterback.
It's got to be at least a year, if not 2 or 3 years. Kyle stood up there on his weekly thing and said it's 2.5.
So how many $1 million quarterbacks do you think there are then? I mean, you're down to some G5 schools paying that? What are they getting in the American or the Pac-12 now? Because he was talking power leagues. And in some cases, are there backup quarterbacks?
I think you'd be getting great money. Well, yeah, there are backup quarterbacks because there's freshmen that come in.
Right. And Houston is supposed to have a great – I mean, they've got a returner back, but they've got a 5-star freshman right behind him. Right. It's like somebody – I was talking with somebody about this, and they're like –
So clearly you're going to pay him.
The Utes are in a great thing. I mean, who has 2 quarterbacks? And so Houston?
Connor Wegman and Keyshawn Henderson.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're getting paid.
Right. Yeah.
Rob says if Kalani's feeling underappreciated and promises have been broken, then he might leave after this year. And he's got some social, this from some TV show or movie or whatever, and the kid's tearing up. So Rob is clearly a big Kalani fan, he's bracing himself.
I could argue, even if they promised him everything and gave him everything, he could still leave at the end of the year. Who knows what's going to be out there?
Given the moves we've seen in college football over the years, can't rule that out. You can't. We've seen too many stunning moves. I mean, Oregon has been stunned multiple times. They're like, I can't believe our guy is going. We got to go find another guy.
Well, I mean, the NFL wanted to hire Coach Edwards. Who's to say that isn't an option?
That clearly could happen.
Yeah.
All right, DJ PK, we're all done. Coming up, Scotty G, the coach Tim Lacombe. More on the Lakers sale, I'm sure. $12.5 billion. Stay with us right here on The Zone.